Hey everybody, Aaron here. Welcome back to the First City Podcast, episode 13. This is a great one, guys. Got to sit down with my buddy Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds for a very extensive backstory and really great acoustic performances. Plus, I got to sit down with Bill Leverty, lead guitarist, original member of the 90s rock band Firehouse. They're coming to the People's Bank Theater this August. Tickets on sale now. Plenty of great seats available. I had a nice phone chat with Mr. Leverty. I want to thank everybody who came out for the Memorial Day quarter and dollar sale. We're going to have another one of those possibly as early as next week. And then that'll be it. Everything that's left over will be going to auction, freeing up space for me to renovate the back end of the store that nobody really has access to. And I have some great plans that I will be able to share with you guys in the very, very, very near future once we cross some T's and dot some I's. But it's going to be really great for the Mid-Ohio Valley and really great for us. I'm really stoked to share that with you. There's your little teaser for the week. But let's go ahead and jump into our interview with Mr. Bill Leverty of the band Firehouse, and we'll be back with some more house cleaning type things and our interview and live performances from Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. Everybody enjoy Bill Leverty of Firehouse. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we are back on the podcast, and I am joined by the legendary guitarist for the band Firehouse, Bill Leverty. Thank you so much for spending a few minutes and chatting with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Aaron.
So the band Firehouse is a hard rock metal band that started in the mid-'80s and really gained traction and popularity when the genre was kind of exploding in those early '90s. And now you guys have sold over 7 million albums worldwide with fame all over the world. And it's an honor not only to talk to you, but the fact that you're coming to Marietta to play at the People's Bank Theater on August the 9th. It's very exciting to have you guys coming on this tour. So let's go ahead and jump right in with some easy questions for you, Bill. Early influencing. Who were you listening to when you were a kid getting that guitar in your hand for the first time?
Well, I was influenced heavily by music before I started playing guitar. I didn't start until I was about 14. So before I started playing guitar, Stevie Wonder was a big influence of mine. As far as some of the, I was listening to like Simon and Garfunkel, and my dad had a Carlos Montoya record, which he's this flamenco guitar player. I loved that record. I loved Rare Earth, and I loved Creedence Clearwater Revival. And then I got into guitar a little later, and I had Leonard Skinner records, and that was my first song I learned was Sweet Home Alabama. And then I got a Ted Nugent record, and I, really got into that one heavily. And then that first Van Halen record came out, and that was all she wrote, as they say.
That's wonderful. I remember my first song ever learning on guitar was Californication by the Red Hot Chili Peppers. So our timelines are slightly different, but I was also about 15. I started because my brother was a guitarist. Why did you choose the guitar?
I just love the way the guitar sounded. Something about it grabbed that nerve from my ear all the way to my heart and made me just gravitate towards that instrument. And I loved all kinds of guitar playing, classical guitar playing, although I can't play it. Jazz, same thing, I can't really play it. But rock guitar and acoustic guitar playing always made me just perk my ear up and go, wow, that just sounds so cool. So I don't know if there was any one thing, but it was just a combination of all the records that I was listening to at the time. I'd always listen to the guitar, and I don't know what it was about it, but it just pulled me in.
Yeah, I understand. One of my kind of employees, he's a younger guy. He's 15 and he's playing bass guitar now. And he said he listens to a lot of the band Yes. And I said, why do you listen to so much Yes? He's like, I just really like the bass parts. And I'm sitting here thinking, wow, I've never actually stopped to listen to the bass over everything else going on, especially on a prog rock record. But yeah, I mean, when you find your instrument, it finds you.
Yeah, let me just say that our bassist, Alan McKenzie, who is an Ohio native, his one of his favorite bassists out there. Probably his top favorite bassist is Chris Squire of Yes. So your employee has got good ears, in my opinion.
Yeah, I'm lucky to have him. He's only 15. I can't believe that he has that sophisticated of an ear at 15. I know I didn't. I was just listening to everything as a whole. But next question I'm going to throw out at you is any artists that you're currently into? Any what's your music scene looking like these days?
Well, I go back to the records that influenced me when I got into my fusion state, or my fusion phase, and those are artists like anything Steve Morse has put out of the Dixie Dregs. I was influenced a few years after I started playing heavily by fusion guitar players like Steve Morse, Alan Holdsworth, Al Di Meola. Those are probably the big three. Jeff Beck was one of my biggest guitar influences. So I tend to go back and listen to those guys because they were so advanced musically that I could always listen to them, and it would keep my interest and make me go, how the heck did he do that? So those are the guys I go back to listening to. As far as any, new bands or anything like that, I'm not really on the, my radar antenna really isn't up for that right now. I'm busy writing my own stuff and doing my own things. So I'm not really listening to a lot of new music, unfortunately, other than my own.
Hey, last time I talked to, it was Mick Box of the band Uriah Heep. He told me that his first album he remembered listening to was Les Paul and Mary Ford.
Les Paul.
Yeah, Les Paul and Mary Ford was the album that he bought, and he tried to learn how to play guitar as fast as Les Paul, and he found out later on in life that he was playing it and they were speeding it up. So do you have any funny stories like that when you were trying to learn other people's music? That who really stood out to you as somebody you were trying to emulate when you were in your early days of learning?
So many of them. Al Di Meola has probably got the fastest right hand of any guitar player who uses a pick, and I actually had the opportunity of playing a softball game with Al on the opposite team, and Al, because I was a guest there, I didn't bring my glove. I didn't have a glove, and Al let me use his glove. Of course, the glove is on the left hand. At the end of the game, I gave him his glove back. We're going in as we switched innings. I'm giving him his glove back, and he's giving it to me as he goes back to bat or whatever. And at the end of the game, I said, "Man, I got a lot of magic from that left hand there. You got anything for the right hand?" And he goes, "It's just," he goes, "It's just a lot of training, man." I was like, "Wow, it's so true." But yeah, that's my funny story about something I picked up from a monster player like that.
If we were sitting down and building a playlist on Spotify together, give our audience maybe 3 to 5 songs that would be on a playlist if they wanted to get to know you as not only a musician, but as just a person in general. What songs always end up on your playlists?
Well, I would first, because I'm a self-promoter, I would try to put one of my own songs on there. But since we're going to probably say that's out. Jeff Beck, Because We Ended as Lovers, is a great one for melody and for emotion and that kind of thing. I would say Leonard Skinner's Sweet Home Alabama, because it was the first song I learned. And if you want to have a really great lesson in, how to build a song, and then also how to write 2 fantastic solos or leads in a song. And if you think you're getting good at playing guitar, try to learn those solos note for note. They are very difficult, but they are so iconic. So that would be probably the second one.
Okay.
I would say with Van Halen, we'd have to do a Van Halen song, and Little Dreamer, I think, is a really good example of what a great band they were, with great background vocals and great melodies and a great solo. So I'd go with that one for Van Halen. And then for Steve Morse, I would say when he was in the Dixie Dregs, probably I think the greatest band of musicians of all time, I would have someone listen to a song called Cruise Control. And they have a couple of different versions out there. I think the original version's great. They did a live version that's great, and then they did a re-recording of it later on in their career that's also great. So any version of Cruise Control, I think will blow you away. Yeah, let me throw one of mine on there. I've put 5 solo albums, and so a song I did, it's kind of my bluesy set. It's called Divided We Fall.
My next question for you would be, how has touring changed over the years? And who are some of your favorite touring companion bands? Because I was looking at the list of bands that you're currently on and off the road with. Quite an eclectic group, but all like-minded in that hard rock vein, that classic rock, 90s nostalgic rock. And so just fill us in on how this current tour is and how things are different than they used to be.
Well, the way they used to be is that we'd go out on the road for 9 months, and then we were on a bus the whole time. We come back and our accountant would send us the statement of where all the money went, and we'd go, wow, look, it all went to the bus company because we were out on a bus. So now we do fly out dates where we fly and then we get our statement back and we look and we see that the airlines got all the money. That's what's really changed, though, is that we used to be on a bus and now we're flying Delta. But at least with Delta, we get our Sky Miles or our frequent flyer points. So that every now and then, we get a free bag checked. Some of us get it more than one. But that's one of the main things is that when it used to be that after the show, we'd get on the bus, lay down in the bunk and get some sleep. Now we were up at 3 a.m. this past weekend when we played a gig in Oregon to fly home to catch a 5:50 a.m. flight to go home. And we were also up at the same time or earlier to go out there because you got to get the really early flights to get out to where you want to go. So I guess the biggest difference for us physically is that we don't get any sleep, but you never know it by watching us. Once we get up there in front of the audience and the audience is rocking, we forget all about it.
That's awesome. So obviously you can go online and figure out how the band was formed, how Firehouse came together, but in your own words, back in the 80s, how did you guys all meet? How did the band actually come together?
Well, Michael Foster and I were in a band called White Heat, and Michael joined the band in 1984. So that's 40 years that I've had the honor and privilege of playing with a drummer as great as Michael, and he's a great singer as well, and just a great guy. He's just a really cool dude. And so we were in one band, and then this band came to town called Max Warrior, and they had this great singer and this great bass player, and we wanted to work with them. They hadn't heard of us yet, but we crossed paths on the club circuit back then. There were certain clubs that rock bands played, and we liked them, they liked us. Eventually, both bands kind of broke up at the same time, and we got some tapes to CJ and to Perry, our old bass player, and they decided they wanted to come and record with us. So we made some recordings. Perry couldn't do it at first, but CJ did, and we made some recordings. And then we had a lot of record company interest at the time, and we asked Perry again, hey, any way you can come over now and start playing with us? And he did. And then that's how we got a record deal. So it's kind of an evolution of what used to be called White Heat and Max Warrior, and kind of joining forces and then starting this new band. We kept the name White Heat, but then at the trademark office, when we signed our record deal, they realized there was another 3 bands called White Heat that had prior usage, so they made us change our name, and Michael came up with the name Firehouse.
And then you were off to the races from there. Okay, so my last kind of quick fire question for you is kind of a silly one. I wanted to know, but it also got asked by one of my good customers. How long did it take for you guys to get your hair that perfect in the morning before a show?
I'm not sure it was ever that perfect, but I'd say I don't know. You get out of the shower, um, let it dry a little bit naturally. Then you crank up the 1600-watt blow dryer, turn your head upside down, and that's when I could grow bangs. And then you blow dry it upside down, and then when it was dry, you'd flip your head back up, and there it was. So I don't know, maybe 15 minutes, something like that. Right.
We got a couple fan questions and comments from my Facebook feed. I'm going to go through real quick for you. My buddy Ryan Shiflett, who also is a fellow record store owner up the road at Kraken Records, says he had his first slow dance to Love of a Lifetime in school. Tell him I said thank you.
Oh, that's wonderful. Well, hopefully it led to a love of a lifetime, and that they're still together. If not, then hopefully his new sweetheart, and he can dance again to Love of a Lifetime.
Yes, they are a husband and wife team, own a record store together, and they're wonderful, absolutely great people. I love working with them. So next up, Justin Arthur says that he and his brother used to work out to your music in the basement, and he'll always have a special place in his heart for you guys. So that's nice to hear. The next one is from...
Very cool. Well,
yeah.
Thank you very much.
The next one is from Anthony, and I actually had some news to share with him. He says, why no re-releases of your albums on vinyl? And I got to announce to him that we had just that day gotten an email that the debut album from 1990, the self-titled album from 1990, is getting re-released on Real Gone Music on a smoky red colored vinyl, and it happens to fall on the same day that you're playing our theater at Marietta. August the 9th is the day that album will be in my store, and it'll be the day that you're in town.
Oh, that's so cool. And that just happened. We just found out about it, and that's absolutely wonderful. A lot of people have been asking about when we're going to put it out on vinyl. It's not up to us. It's up to Sony, and the guys at Real Gone Music worked it out with Sony so that they could do it. So I'm so glad that Sony is now participating in the vinyl business, because they released very few vinyl copies when our first record came out, and then vinyl was over.
Yeah.
So, but I miss vinyl, and those were really cool days, man. And when you could hold an album up and really look at the artwork and turn it over and look at the back, the credits and all that stuff, and then putting it on, the warmth of a vinyl record is just sounds great. So yeah, I'm glad that they're putting it out.
We'll definitely have several copies in the store that day for the folks that are going to the show, and I'm definitely keeping one for myself. I've been looking forward to that for quite a while, as well as somebody who's been collecting for the last 16 years or so. Our last question is a little bit, I'm just going to let you elaborate on it here. He says, how much has the loss of your lead singer, CJ Snare, affected the band? And he was such an amazing performer in person. Thanks in advance.
Yeah, well, it was devastating. He had been sick for a long time, but he had a plan, and his plan did not include dying. He was due to come back in July, and he had a second major surgery, and he was recovering from it. And the last I spoke to him, he said, I'm gaining some weight. Things are looking up. And then 2 days later, I got a call from his lady, and she told me that he had passed away from a heart attack. It was a cardiac arrest. So we were all devastated and just floored by that. And it really still hadn't sunk in. We did a tribute show for him a couple of weeks afterwards in Tennessee, and a lot of folks came out, and it's just devastating. Like I said, I mean, it was so talented, such a great singer, such a great songwriter. A lot of people don't know what a phenomenal keyboard player he was as well, and just an all-around great guy. And while he was recovering from his surgery, we had a fill-in guy filling in for him named Nate Peck, who was an American Idol golden ticket recipient, meaning that all 3 judges said, yes, you passed your audition, you're going to Hollywood. And we got Nate to fill in for CJ since October. And then after the untimely passing of CJ, after Nate's done so many shows with us and gotten such a warm response from the fans, and he fits the family like a brother. We asked him if he would like to join the band, so he's our new lead singer. So hope you come out and support Nate and give him a big hand.
I went back on YouTube yesterday while I was preparing to chat with you and listened to his American Idol rehearsals, his auditions, and not only does he sound the part, but he looks the part. But I gotta ask, what kind of energy does that? I mean, he's a lot younger than all of us. What kind of energy does this young guy bring to the band now that he's on stage with you guys?
Well, it definitely lifts us up. But CJ had an incredible amount of energy too, and CJ was, a little bit older than me, and I'm not all that young, but Nate, just a real positive guy. He's a real natural singer. He's got a tone in his voice that's very similar to the same kind of tone that CJ had. And he's just the kind of guy that gets up there and makes you feel good. So I think everybody, when they come out and see him, they'll really like him.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for spending some time with us. Firehouse will be at the People's Bank Theater on August the 9th. And like I said, that is the day that the Firehouse self-titled album will be available over at my record store, First City Records. And as always, I'm going to, shameless plug, invite you and the band members to walk around the corner to my store if you'd like to stop by. I would love to meet you in person, shaking hand. Otherwise, I will see you at the concert that night. I will definitely be there to cheer on you guys, especially Nate, as he is the new member and the new lead singer. Tickets and VIP packages are now available over at peoplesbanktheater.com. Bill, thank you so much again for joining me for this interview, and we'll see you in August.
Thanks, brother. See you, Aaron. Thanks again for the time.
You're welcome.
See you soon.
Have a great one. See ya.
Hey, buddy. See you. Bye-bye.
There you have it, folks. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Bill Leverty, lead guitarist of the band Firehouse. I have an original pressing of that debut album on its way to me for my personal collection. It's weird that album is so good and it's never been released on vinyl in America before. And I'm happy that I have a copy coming for myself, an original, but it was not cheap. Hoping to get it signed by Bill, maybe some of the other original members. And apart from that, we have the reissues coming that day. I'm going to have 15 copies in the store. The day of the concert is the day of the first vinyl release in America of the debut 1990 album by Firehouse on colored vinyl. And we'll have plenty of them. So come check us out, First City Records. You can pre-order it now at firstcityrecordstore.com. Coming up, we got a little things to talk about here. We have The Great Race coming up on Sunday, June 23rd. We'll have an interview with people from The Great Race on the next week's episode. But for now, just know that it is going to take over downtown Marietta on Sunday, June 23rd with a massive car show, food vendors, regular vendors, the actual race itself. And we're going to top things off with a free live performance in store from Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. We talk a little bit about that, but we kind of get sidetracked with 2 hours of just hanging out on this episode. So I wanted to make sure to plug that for you guys here. Sunday, June 23rd, Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds, a free concert at First City Records, leading to the end of the Great Race of that around that time that day. Probably 5 p.m., I would say, is a great time to say we're going to start. The racers are allowed to head out around 7:30, so maybe 5 to 5:30. Grab yourself some beers over at the Over the Moon or Marietta Brewing Company, and grab a coffee over at Jeremiah's, and Dora welcome. Bring them on over, and we're going to have an amazing time on a very busy day in downtown Marietta. After that, well, actually before that, we have First Friday coming up in just 2 days. First Friday takes place this coming Friday, the 7th, and we are lucky to have Gypsy River back in the studio. Actually, back in the store, not the studio. Back in the store for the second time. If you're a fan of bands like Fleetwood Mac, you're going to love this husband and wife duo. They will be with us from 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. And we will probably have some sales running, and I am pounding the pavement, buying collections left and right, and we will be debuting several more crates of stuff that night. So definitely check us out this coming Friday night for First Friday. Join everybody downtown. The buzz is ecstatic. It is electric, and there's lots to see, lots to do. And I'm very, very, very much looking forward to this First Friday. So that's it for now. We're going to sit back and we're going to have a 2-hour conversation with Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds, where we talk about everything from country, rock, the state of things, having children, the bands that he's been in, all the way down to children musical theater. So sit back, have yourself a cold brew, and enjoy my interview with my good buddy, Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds.
Everybody wants a piece of me, but I ain't got much left. Some would say that that's what I get. But I've been talking circles for miles now, I ain't found my way down yet. Feels like I'm losing a bet. 7 long years since she left me here on low. A little part of me always wanted her to leave, yeah. A little part of me always wanted her to go. I'm standing out the side.
Well, we're sitting in First City Podcast Studios, aka my basement, with Mr. Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. Welcome in, buddy.
What's up, Aaron?
And this week's episode is going to be a fun one because Jake and I like to call him a new friend.
Yeah.
And this is a great way to get to know somebody away from the store and maybe get to know we have more in common than we ever thought. So hopefully that'll be the case. And I always ask this question. We'll just get it out of the way first. First thing I want to know, what is the first album that you remember ever buying? Where was it? Why was it? And do you remember?
Yeah. It's a compact disc of, if you can remember those. I know you. I mean, you're a vinyl man, but somewhere in between there, you know.
I still have a handful of CDs left over
okay,
there.
yeah. Why should I say that to you? Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. No, if I'm remembering correctly, it was, I think, a Rush CD of them live, in like, I don't even, I think like maybe early 80s. It's either that or, no, okay, I take that back. That actually, that was a concert film. And I'd gotten really into Rush because I was very much into drums. The first album I bought, it was a 2-disc set of The Wall live, I think at Madison Square Gardens or something like that. And I was very much into Pink Floyd, and I'd never purchased any music at all ever. And this was probably, I mean, I was probably maybe 14 at the time, and we were in an FYE. If you can remember FYE.
Right. Yes. The record bins in my store are from the original FYE in the mall.
Yeah. that's yeah. But yeah, I remember picking that up in the FYE, and it was very, you know, interesting cover. Had their faces on the cover with their eyes blacked out, and I listened to that so much. Because I was very into Pink Floyd very, very early on. And
that's
Rush.
kind of embarrassing, to be honest with you. You're talking Rush and Pink Floyd, and I was listening when I was a kid to Vanilla Ice and Natalie Merchant.
Yeah. Well, because here's the thing about that though, and I was just telling my wife about this morning. I I was very kind of sheltered with my exposure to music growing up. Um, pretty conservative household. Church every Sunday, that kind of thing. And we would listen to like the top 40 country radio on our way to and fro from church. And then,
Well, let's pause there real quick. How old are you, and what generation are we
yeah,
talking?
I'm 32.
Oh, so you're way younger than me. Okay. Okay. Yeah. So my top 40 country, when I'm thinking of, is like Strawberry Wine, Deanna Carter, 90s
no,
country,
yeah.
Shania Twain.
No, for sure. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Similar stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I
Okay.
mean, I'm talking, yeah, because I'm talking young. Like, this is the first that I can recall, like
Okay.
the first music I can recall listening to. Excuse me. And that's exactly what it was. Leanne Rimes, Shania Twain, Dwight Yoakam, those, George Strait, like all of those 90s country heavy hitters. I just thought that, aside from that and like musical tunes, and like church hymns, I thought that was what music was. I didn't really know that there were other types of, genres out there. I was very much into sports as a kid as well. So it kind of like my musical interest didn't really kind of peak until we lived in Cheshire, Ohio, which is down in between, it's in between, Meigs County and Gallipolis, and it's where that Kiger Creek power plant is, if you're familiar. Town's not there anymore because the plant bought out the town, and we moved up to Pomeroy. And in the move, my dad had a couple boxes of vinyls, and I didn't have any idea what those were, like just to look at them. I had some CDs, that they were my sister's. So I didn't buy those. They were just like, here's now that's what I call music.
I remember those. I actually still have my original Now That's What I Call Music Volume 2 CD.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
I have it. I had that Eiffel 65 song. Yeah, I know it was on. I know that was on there.
Were they the I'm Blue Abadi?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's it. Yeah, that's
I'm
it.
Blue Abadi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And but no, he's we're kind of going through stuff in the move, and I find these boxes, and I'm like, hey, what are these? And he tells me, what they are, and I'm kind of flipping through them, and the first one I pull out was Dark Side of the Moon, just because I thought it looked cool.
In your semi-religious upbringing, the first record you pulled was The Dark Side.
Yeah, and
that's cool,
right? And my dad has all of these, great hip records, and I'm just like, it wasn't like super conservative, but I mean, just good, like your classic American.
I grew up Baptist, going to church every Sunday
sure.
too, but obviously.
Yeah, but I mean, it wasn't like looking back, it is kind of surprising to me, but I mean, he had, he also had like playing of John Denver and the Carpenters, and like
those kind of bands are the bane of my existence. They're in every collection that I pull. Every time I see Emerson, Lake and Palmer,
definitely had some
Air Supply, Carpenters. It's in every collection, and I cringe every time I see
there
those.
was some Neil Diamond.
Every Neil Sedaka too. Neil Diamond and Neil Sedaka.
Yep. But somehow in that mess, he had that, and he had Bruce Springsteen, Born in the USA. That was the other one I pulled out too. They're polar opposites, but he played Dark Side first, and very, very vivid memory of him putting that on, and just the way, the first song, the way that record kicks off is very, a lot of sound effects going on, and it has that big build, and then the lady wah, 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 and then the song kicks in. It really, to me, felt like kind of it sounds silly, but looking back, it felt kind of like a like the Dorothy getting to Oz, like everything's in color now, because it really opened my mind to be like, oh, like, what is this? Like, this is something beyond and it is what actually sparked my interest into like getting involved with music, because I had no idea that was even out there. And it was pretty late into I was probably maybe 12 or 13 when that had happened. And from that point, it was just all downhill from there, man.
So, what was your first musical instrument of choice when you decided to pick up an instrument? Were you in the school band? How did it go for getting you with an instrument in your hand?
Yeah, well, my parents had me take piano lessons as a kid, which I didn't like.
My kid hated them too.
Yeah, my favorite thing about piano lessons was my sister would also go and take a lesson, and while she was at her lessons, I would just watch like Mighty Ducks or something like that. So I like the movies that our piano
Quack
teacher-
Attack is back, Jack.
Yeah, for sure, absolutely, Emilio, and
I swear to God, the Mighty Ducks, man.
yeah,
Emilio!
I love it. Um, we
And we're off the rails.
yeah, no, of course, fantastic. I'm drinking coffee, man.
Yeah.
Then they had me take guitar lessons, and I also that didn't take either. Hurt my fingers. Didn't care for it. And
Acoustic or electric?
acoustic, and then it was it was basketball and baseball all the way up until I think
What position did you play? Baseball.
I was a right fielder primarily. I wanted to pitch real bad. I only pitched one inning, and it was the longest inning of my entire life. I'll never ever want to. It was awful. The coach was just like, "All right, kid, shut up. We'll let you pitch."
I was an all-star first baseman for many years.
Nice.
And I did pitch quite a bit on occasion as well, because being a lefty, they would put me in as kind of, and I always tricked them like I was a secret weapon. I would always and then switch the glove right before I got out there and be like, "Hey guys, guess what's?" Yeah, I was so dumb.
You're
But
you're like Rocky. You're
yeah, like when I would go up to bat, I would pretend to get into the right-hand side, and then I would switch and be like, "Yeah, I tricked them."
southpaw.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love baseball. That's my other love, other than music, is baseball. Playing it, coaching it. My kids, I've coached all theirs.
Yeah.
So yeah.
No, I have a love for baseball as well. I'm definitely not as into it as I used to be, but great Reds fan. Like we love going to.
Come on.
Oh no, man, love going to great
Pirates guy, unfortunately, but I love the Reds too. I'm not one of those people that you have to pick one.
No, for sure. Same here. I've been to Guardians games as well.
Oh yeah, the Jacobs Field, amazing, amazing
for sure.
ballpark.
Well, and I tell you what, I don't know if you've ever been to Great American Ballpark.
I have not. That's one of the local stadiums I've never been to.
Really nice. You see it. It's seated so that you can see the river. Out over the bay. It's really nice.
See, I love the Pirates Stadium, the PNC Park.
Yeah,
I love it when they're losing, because the concourse area is so small that if they're winning and there's a lot of people at the game, I mean, it's neck to neck, shoulder to shoulder. You can barely move in there. But when they're losing and you can just have free reign of the stadium to walk into almost whatever section you want, there's not a bad seat in that house. It's gorgeous views of the river.
Yeah.
The smells coming off of Willie Sturgill's, the food over there. Yeah, it's my home away from home. I love PNC Park.
See, that's where I'm at now with Cruise Stadium up in it's new Cruise Stadium.
You're talking about the American soccer, right?
Yeah.
I've never been to a game there, but I pass it every time I go through Columbus.
Yes, it's I got into soccer in college, and started watching British soccer because it's one of the more popular leagues in the world, and American soccer has always just kind of been like But in the past couple of years, past like 5 years, it's gotten more, sports gotten more involved, and there's a lot of players from overseas who will retire and come over and play in America.
Are you excited for the Olympics? I have a feeling is soccer in the Olympics. I assume it is.
Yeah.
I know I saw the basketball lineup is pretty stacked this year.
We dominated pretty
well.
much, in the basketball.
I don't know anything about soccer, so I had to throw in basketball.
No, for sure. Well,
but
it's you kick the ball and it goes in the goal, and that's that's what.
Same thing. Well, it's the same thing with hockey.
Yeah.
But by God, going to a hockey game is so much fun. If you've never been,
that's what I was getting at with going to a soccer match, man. Up at lower.com field, I think is what it's called up in Columbus. My God, it's so fun. You talking about PNC Park? That's I've been to plenty of crew games now and sat all over the stadium, and there really is not a bad place to sit in there. And it's like a party the whole game.
I'll have to give it a try.
Oh,
I've never given two squats about soccer, but if a good time could be had watching it live,
great time.
I'll give it a shot. Same thing, like I said, same thing with hockey. When I went to my first hockey games up at the Bowling Green College, baseball's. Honestly, it's other than that first visual when you walk in and see the field and how bright it is.
Yeah.
Apart from that, it's just about the same as it is on TV.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
By the sixth inning, you're like, yeah, it's really hot out here.
Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, if it's a nice day, it's just a good excuse to
Yeah.
sit outside and drink beer and watch a ball game. But
Oh yeah, get that heat stroke with that beer going.
yeah,
Oh
exactly.
yeah, man.
Drink it fast before it becomes, yeah, for sure.
All right, let's
Veering
get
off
off.
the
Let's get off
rails.
sports.
Yeah.
And
Welcome to Sports Talk with
yeah.
Jake Dunn.
brought to you by what was that skit on SNL? Do you remember that? It was Pete Twinkle and it was like you don't know?
No.
You gotta check. Oh my God, they're so.
I like that name.
Yes, it's brought to you by Stay Free Maxi Pads. It's like ladies bowling on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
The Ocho. That dodgeball, man. I love
You
it.
kind of sound like the guy from.
Dude.
Yeah, Cotton.
Oh my God, the mood is tense, Cotton. That's funny. There's a Bobby Wheeler story right there.
Okay.
But yeah, let's get back on the rails.
All right, let's get back on it. Okay, so you have you've tried out piano, you've tried out guitar, and then you said you fell in love with drums. Really, first was your first musical love.
Yes, I loved playing drums. It really was a matter of necessity. There weren't a lot of drummers, and I really wanted to be in a band.
How old were you when you started?
This would have been probably 6th or 7th grade. So it was around the same time as when I was like pretty much getting into.
I was playing xylophone.
Yeah. Well, I was in middle school concert band, and
we all started on xylophone.
yeah, and it's absolutely for sure, and the glockenspiel, and it was that's where I really started getting into it. I loved playing drums, and drums felt like the drummers were a little bit competitive in a way, because everybody wanted to be very good, and it wasn't everybody that was in drums, but there was a handful of us, and not in an aggressive way, but we just pushed ourselves to be better, and I liked that aspect of drums, and getting into Rush. I was just mesmerized by Neil Peart's drumming. And you can say what you want about Rush. I know it's kind of love him or hate him. I love Rush.
I love Rush.
Yeah, I love him. And it's undeniable though that Neil Peart's drumming is just next level. And I would just watch. And I bought a DVD of him. It's the Anatomy of a Drum Solo, and it's him breaking down his. This was like when they were on tour in like 2010 or something like that. Probably earlier than that, but he was talking about the drum solo he was playing at the time, and I was just, I was like, I want to do this. I want to play drums. Did that for the longest time, and I mean, it kind of flipped, because then it became a matter of played in drums, a couple of bands, they were all right. Then I kind of started learning guitar, because then there were no guitar players anymore. Like everybody had a drummer, and I was like, okay, I want to play guitar now, and let's switch over to that. And then
This was still back in Meigs County.
yeah, and then I was like, well, now I can't find anybody to play guitar in my band. I'm going to start doing it. It kind of was the realization of like, I can make music on my own a lot easier if I'm playing guitar than sitting behind the drums. And I wanted to write music. That was the thing.
And the drummer never gets to really. I mean, look at Ringo.
Right.
Even in the best band in the world, Ringo's always the afterthought. I hate to say, sorry, Ringo fans.
Yeah.
But the drummer is never the person that you think of as the writer of the best songs, or the person making creative decisions.
Yeah. I mean, it's few and far between, unless you're talking about, Neil Peart, he wrote all the lyrics for
Def
Rush.
Leppard, the one arm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, he had respect.
Yeah, for sure. There's Levon Helm from the band.
He played everything though, didn't he?
He was a drummer. Yeah.
Just a drummer?
There were occasionally he would play mandolin on certain different things. Those guys bounced around a lot.
I was gonna say I have so many albums with him on it. Maybe it's just a guest vocalist.
Yeah, love the band, and Phil Collins. Unless you're those guys. But I wanted to write music, and that's when started playing guitar and tried to find bands here and there, and it's funny because I know when I first got here we started I can't remember what got us on the conversation before the podcast about musicals. And I was like, I don't want to talk about that, but
we're going to spend the next 5 minutes only 5 minutes on musical theater. I want to tag my MOVP and Actors Guild friends for the next 5-minute segment.
Yeah,
let's talk about some theater real quick.
Yeah.
Just throw it in there.
Yeah, well, it was a thing that, I was in marching band, and a lot of the band kids, did theater stuff as well. And it was, Meigs is a small high school, and there's not a lot of kids that get into the arts down there.
Yeah.
So, your friend group is kind of those that exist in that, type of, area. And, yeah, just kind of started getting into musicals a little bit. There was a girl I was really into who was doing some musicals as well. And I was kind of like, okay, this is a little bit more incentive. And then I started figuring out that I could sing. And then that was kind of a big game changer for me because I was terrified to sing in front of people. But I think doing theater really kind of helped me get over that, and like be able to, I became more comfortable with writing songs and singing songs behind the guitar.
Okay, so singing theater and singing Americana, folk, country,
Yeah.
what have you, for whatever we want to classify you as.
Yeah.
Did that twang? That twang could not have been present if you were singing like "If I Had a Brain" from Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
If I had a brain.
Yeah.
No, come on.
No, I mean,
You had to tuck that away.
It's
right?
yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, probably, but I mean, it's kind of something that I don't really notice or pay attention to too much.
British singers don't sound British when
Yeah.
they're singing, so
Yeah.
I guess maybe we don't notice it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, I never intentionally try to change the way my voice sounds for any type of song, but I mean, it's like, we would also talked about this earlier. If it feels like it's right for the song, I mean, then it'll just happen naturally, and it's like that kind of. Don't sing with a fake British accent.
I can't help it sometimes. I'm a horrible cover singer.
Yeah, well, you never want to be, and my whole thing is you never want to be disingenuous. You want to be real. And if what is real is, sounding that kind of way in that particular part of the song or whatever, then that's fine. But if you're just faking it to sound that way and go for a certain thing, then you're a jabroni.
Yeah, so don't cover a redemption song and sound like you live near the beach, man.
Yeah. Yeah, no go. Yeah. But no, that
poser.
That's theater helped me a lot with kind of coming out of my shell that way, and played in kind of the pit crew a little bit for when my high school did the play Grease. Following year we did Wizard of Oz. I had a small part in that. I played the wizard, and then the year after that, it was my senior year, and they put on The Little Shop of Horrors.
Oh, that's my second dream role I never got to be with Seymour.
Well, they cast me as Seymour.
Oh man,
Yeah.
I'm jealous of you even more now.
And it was so much fun, and
I bet.
that because it was just a fun play, and all of my friends were in it, and we went up to some high school in like Hilliard up in Columbia, like really really nice high school, and they had a model of the plant.
The big,
Yeah.
they had different stages.
Yeah.
Hand puppet.
Yeah.
All the way up to like
The
13.
massive
Yeah,
one.
like
Yeah.
13 people moving strings.
Yeah, well, this one was crazy because it was just like it was one person who sat in it, and they kind of operated it with their arms.
If
And-
you can't tell what's going
No.
on.
No,
His
not at
arms are
all.
going up and down.
Yeah, and there was a tube, a slide that was in between. They would straddle it, so when you got eaten by the plant, it was basically just like going down like a little playground slide, and you would just kind of slide out the back, and it was great. But had a great time doing that, and
Before we move on, can you belt out one line of Suddenly Seymour?
I can't even remember, to be quite honest with you. Yeah.
Suddenly Seymour is standing beside you. Could you just do that part?
I don't even remember the melody, man. Yeah, all of that stuff escapes me because it was just such a
man.
brief point in time, and we were talking about 3 years maybe of me doing it. So and yeah,
But I still listen to. I still have my Little Shop soundtrack.
yeah.
I
See, I
still
haven't-
listen to it all the
I haven't
time.
heard it in years, man. Yeah, long time.
See, I was never even in Oklahoma. That was my brother's first play, and I have no like love for that play at
Yeah.
all. But the music in it, I still have my soundtrack of that, and I'm sitting here like whistling that song about every third day. I'm whistling. Little Surrey with the fringe on top. I don't even know what the hell it's about or what a Surrey is. Any of that.
See,
But
the only song that I can recall from it, and it's funny. Like I said, all my friends were in that play. They cast Bobby Wheeler as the voice of the plant, and he was tremendous. Bobby Wheeler. If you don't know out there, Bobby Wheeler is a bass player in the Blackbirds. fantastic musician. This was when me and him first like became friends, and I can recall in like middle school and younger, I could not stand Bobby. As a kid, he annoyed the crap out of me.
Oh.
But when we became older and got into high school, especially during Little Shop, we became such good friends. And he was so great as the voice of the plant, because Bobby would make a tremendous voice actor because he just did such a good job. He never even had to learn his lines. He just sat backstage and could read out of the book and just talk into the mic, right?
Now, did he try to mimic the?
Oh, he did great.
Feed me.
Yeah, no, for sure. Because that's really the only song I can remember is "Feed me Seymour, feed me all." And every now and then Bobby will, we'll kind of reminisce about that, and he'll dive into that song, and he does a tremendous job. Yeah, yeah. But that was just a very very brief point in time, and then after that I had. I went away to school kind of off on my own up because I went to WVU, and I was really the only I was the only person that I knew that went there, and all my other friends either went to Ohio University or up to Ohio State or something like that, and when I got up to WVU, it was like it was just it was a fish out of water. Like I didn't know, like I was already kind of I was already kind of, in the shadows of all these, big cultural things. I was very much, unaware of, so many different things that were out there. And like I said, when I first got to school, that was when, I started getting into soccer, and there was just these, you go to college and you're trying to fit in, and all these different things.
You're also trying to discover yourself.
That's exactly it. And then, one of the things that I just got really attached to was that was when I first started listening into kind of more folkier music. Mumford and Sons had just gotten real big, and that was Old Crow. They were always good, but that was when I first started getting into them, and then the Avett Brothers as well. And I got really really into the Avett Brothers because I immediately fell in love with the banjo. I thought it was, I've always kind of liked the alternative thing, like it's always like, oh, it's always cool to be like the lead guitar player, or it's always cool to be, that's why I was like, well, I want to be the drummer because, that's a different thing, and then, when it came to that, I was like, well, being the banjo player, like that's cool, and I got really, especially when I would listen to the Avett Brothers, where, they, very, alternative style of playing that kind of music. And I got really, really into that, and that was what made me first start writing songs. Was I wrote songs on the banjo for the longest time, and not like bluegrassy tunes, just similar to the songs that I started writing when I first got into coming around here. But that was just. Again, just kind of, it felt like a long time, but sort of a brief period where I was like, I want to play banjo. That's what I want to do. And I don't really know why I just dove into that so hard, because then it was almost like in an instant, I was like, I'm kind of over that now, and I think a lot of that had to do with when I got into my later years of college. I started hanging around Ben Davis Jr. You know Ben?
I know, I've met him, and I've known of him a lot through stories from Elmer, who was Elmer from Sound Exchange, big friends with Ben. Very deep voiced.
Yeah. Great songwriter, and we became friends through some mutual friends. He had, he came around Court Street Grill a good bit. I think Dustin kind of had known him, I think, before, because I think him and Dustin Nash, who is, guitar player in the Blackbirds, again, for those of you that don't know. I think him and Dustin lived together there for a while in a apartment on Main Street in Pomeroy that was kind of on the second floor above I can't even remember. And started hanging around with Ben and listening to his songs that he would write, and tried play banjo along with him. And I got to think, oh, okay, this is this is coming together great because we, our voices sounded good together. He can play guitar, I can do the banjo, we can do that whole thing. And we kind of tried doing that for a little while. But then again, I felt kind of like, my intentions with wanting to play the banjo is like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. But it limited me. I wanted to then, I wanted to be the guy. I wanted to play guitar and I wanted to sing and I wanted to, that was when I really, really started feeling like I want to make louder music, basically. And maybe not louder music, but I wanted to make music that was more, it was kind of this flip of a switch where I felt like I just wasn't being fulfilled with what I was doing, and I think I was still kind of searching around for, like what kind of music do I want to make? And I eventually did settle on louder music.
Well, you were lucky that you had all these opportunities when you were younger to kind of play around with things,
Yeah.
and kind of figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and that took me through a lot of different phases of what I wanted to do, and it was, it's just that that thing of trying to find yourself. Musically, it's the same way, and from building off of that relationship with Ben, it became when I said earlier, like I wanted to be the guy, I wanted to be I wanted to be a singer songwriter. That was what I was really getting more into. I was like, I want to. Ben got me really into listening to like Todd Snyder, and kind of more folk singers, and turned me on to a dude named David Childers, who's a great songwriter. He's a lot of the Avett Brothers will cover a handful of his songs because David Childers is good friends with their dad Steve, and but yeah, kind of turned me on to these more. Yeah, these kind of more heartfelt singer-songwriters. Ben turned me on to Steve Earle and Justin Townes Earle, and
Rest in peace, Justin Townes.
I know, man. I know.
It's heartbreaking.
It is. I feel it is one of those deaths of celebrities, musicians, whatever. That really kind of hits hard, man. Like it's real. Yeah. I mean, and just yeah.
Mine was Scott Hutchins of the band Frightened Rabbit. They're an indie rock band, and he spent his entire career writing songs about suicide, depression, and he spent all his time away from his band helping people that had suicidal tendencies and depression issues.
Yeah.
Little did anybody ever really know that he was suffering as well, and then I kind of went over a bridge one night, and then anytime I do anything suicide related, as far as like donating my time for like a charity thing, I always internally and sometimes externally dedicate it to Scott, because I still can't listen to that band without openly sobbing sometimes, depending on the song.
Yeah.
But
no,
I get you.
It's absolutely, and it's a thing I think more so where you just get attached to that person's work, and just looking back, it's a bummer. You're not gonna be able to see them create anymore, let alone the empathy that you feel for their situation, right?
Yeah. And all the people that they helped along the way with dealing with the same thing that he was apparently dealing with quietly.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Hurts.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, from listening to that, and Justin Townes Earle, his music really actually it did affect me a lot. I loved the fact that he stood up there by himself, and that he played that little parlor guitar, and he had damn good songs, and I just liked his whole his kind of aesthetic, his appearance, the way that he presented himself, and I really, really got into that idea. And Ben had this little Lore acoustic guitar, this little black one that I bought off of him, and it was kind of similar style. I think Justin played a Lore as well, and started writing some songs on that, just thinking about Justin Townes Earle and Ryan Adams. Got really into Ryan Adams as well.
He's my favorite.
Yeah, no, it's it's a lot of good content there, a lot of great stuff, and that was when I had moved to Marietta. I was out of college, still kind of looking for things. Me and Ben became friends probably around my junior year of college.
Was Ben still living around here before?
He was living in Pomeroy, I think, and then he had moved to Marietta at some point. I know it was kind of around the same time as I had kind of had to move back home, because he he moved into this apartment in Marietta on 3rd Street, on the corner of 3rd Street and Montgomery Street. And it was a house split up into like 3 or 4 different apartments. And he had like the half side of the first floor, old house, wooden floors. He had just moved in there, and I remember he got a show, I think opening up for somebody at the Adelphia, and I went and watched, and my friend Zach went with me. And he's like, yeah, man, I got a place up in Marietta. We can just stay the night there. You know, it's fine. We're like, okay, cool. Go to this apartment. And he had just moved in, like he hadn't even moved in. I mean, he had just signed the lease for the apartment. So there was no furniture in there. This was like middle of February. The heat had not been turned on. There was a rug in the middle of the floor. And I think he had like an air mattress that he had. and I will remember that forever as being so far as the longest night of my life, because it was so cold. The air in between the cracks of the floor just shooting up at you. I mean, it was just freezing cold. Yeah. Me and my buddy Zach, we're just huddled together as if we're gonna get frostbite.
February in Ohio is nothing to be scoffing at, especially in a 100-year-old building.
Yeah, absolutely. The draftiest.
Oh yeah.
But it's funny because I eventually ended up moving into that apartment with Ben. And once the heat was turned on, it was much more bearable. But the thing about that apartment I graduated, moved home for a little bit, tried to work as a substitute teacher. Immediately, said, nah, don't want to do that. And Ben had landed me this job working at Rent to Own in Marietta. And, started out, trying to do a handful of things, tried to be a salesman, tried to have me in the collections department, hated that, couldn't sell, hated working collections.
Yeah, collections is the worst.
It is terrible, terrible. Ended up just settling for delivery, being a delivery person. Loved it because I'm a big fan of here's a task, go do it. When it's 5, you're done. That I'm totally fine with that. And, did that for a long time. Worked for Ben because Ben was the assistant manager, and so he was my boss, and we were living at that apartment.
No nepotism whatsoever going on there.
No, not at all. We the thing about that is there were 2 doors in that apartment. There was the front door, and then there was a bathroom door. It was made to be a studio apartment. Then and he had there was a living room when you first walked in. There was a middle room that had, what looked like it was meant to be kind of like maybe a dining room. And that was, it had kind of a bay window. Ben had, set up shop there. Then there was a kitchen with the next room. And then there was kind of looked like a smaller dining area. And I had just hung up a big tapestry in front of that area. And we lived, perfectly fine that way for years and years. I mean, it wasn't an issue at all. Just having that very little privacy. He loved that place. I look back fondly on living at that apartment because that was when also, excuse me, when I was listening to Jesse on the pod the other day. Yeah. And great, I loved it. And him telling some of the stories about when we met, I was reminiscing real hard. And it's funny because that segues into this real hard because Ben, living with Ben, and he had heard about the open mic at the Adelphia. And he's like, hey, man, this place, the Adelphia, I played there before. He's like, they have an open mic. It's every Tuesday night. I'm thinking about going to check it out. And I'm like, oh yeah, man, that sounds cool. I think, so I kind of made some plans, and then, and I was like, yeah, he's like getting ready to head out. I was like, yeah, man, you gonna go check out this open mic? And he was like, yeah, man, why don't you let me know how it goes? So I was okay, I kind of, I took a deep breath and went by myself. And, which was, big leap for me to kind of do as being, very, very meek, personality at that point in time. And, went there and was just blown away. That was when Jesse Forrest was running the open mic.
Yeah. He had the best local talent showing up weekly to that place.
Insane.
And just watching it unfold on social media was enough for me to realize they're an upper echelon, a step above where I would feel comfortable performing. So I was super happy for him, but I was watching happily from afar.
It is another thing that I look back on now, and I'm just so thankful that that I was able to be a part of that time, because yeah, immediately going there that night, it was very intimidating, because Jesse would always kick it off with some songs.
Oh, he's very boisterous,
So good,
solid,
so good.
solid singer songwriter, but
Yeah.
just his presence mixed with his ability to be as loud as hell
Oh my God.
and
Yeah.
control it.
Oh,
He has
yeah.
that controlled chaos thing
Oh,
that
yeah.
I would just start like cracking
Yeah.
if I tried to be as bellowous.
Yeah,
Is that a word?
absolutely. Yeah.
Bellow as loud
Yeah,
as,
no, for
as
sure.
Jesse could pull off.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And, so that right there set the bar really high. And I think a handful of other people went. Corey Shields, I think, was definitely, he was there for sure. I can't recall if he had went before or after I went up. Went up there though, absolutely shit scared. I had just recently started writing. At that point in time, I had written a lot of songs. I actually, when I was in college, I had made up my first, quote unquote record. It's just stuff that I recorded in my bedroom on GarageBand, and it was mostly banjo and guitar stuff. Never put it out anywhere. I printed some CDs on my own and burn them. So I had written songs, but this was again when I had started shifting gears and listening to JTE, Justin, and getting into that singer songwriter stuff. So I had different stuff that I hadn't played to anybody before. Ben had probably heard a little bit of them, but
he wasn't there to support you.
No.
That night.
No, and he went up there, got and played, and it was a blur. Who knows how I did. But I did well enough for Jesse to come and ask me to eventually be a part of one of their open mic showcase things that they had. I can't remember what they had called it. It was some type of showcase is what and there was they would highlight like 3 or 4 of the open mic performers, and then have that be the show for the evening. And so I immediately thought, oh man, that's incredible. But it was an intimidating thing to be among the company of not only musicians that are just really talented. It's one thing to be a musician that, and it's no better nor worse. Anybody that can play is you got the respect in my book. It doesn't matter what you play, but it's one thing to play a song that somebody else has written, and appreciate that. Be like, that's spectacular. You can cover a song spot on. But to be in a crowd of people that you have never met before who are writing songs that are so good that I thought that they were covering other people's songs. Yeah. When I heard Jesse play Water on Stone, which he did for the podcast, that was him. That was what he did. Him and Luke and Hayfield and Crow, they would do that. I thought, well, that's a cover, right? That's an incredible song, And,
Too good to be local.
Absolutely.
I hate that mindset.
Well, that's where I came
because
from.
a lot of people in this town have that mindset that the songs aren't going to be what they're used to or what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But the reality is, man,
It's there.
really damn good songwriters in this town.
Yeah. So that going back to circling back to playing in the drum line and that competitiveness of oh, well, you're getting better, I want to get better. That's exactly how, and not in a I want to be better than you way. It was just like, I need to up my game. If I want to come here and be amongst this group of musicians, and I really need to start practicing and writing more songs. And I just started I just churn them out. I just write as many as I can and just keep writing. And I had kind of developed this philosophy of like, if I get one good song out of every like 5 or 10 songs that I write, then if I can just write 50 or 100 songs, then I'll have a pretty solid set of songs. And so I would just write anything that I would come to mind, and you pull bits from here and there, and you kind of Frankenstein some things together. But I started writing stuff really quickly to where I had this batch of songs that I wanted to do something with beyond just playing them by myself. And that was when it was funny, because at the same time I was seeing Hayfield and Crow, becoming a bigger band, Corey Shields doing the Corey Shields trio. It was like everybody's like, we got to get bands going in here now. And
what did Jesse say? 7 bands?
A lot. Yeah. There was that brute that were spawned from that open mic. Yeah, a lot.
Intimidating as hell.
Well, and I'll give you one even better, my marriage. Because I went to that open mic night, and it was that first open mic. My wife was there, and my to be wife was there, and
So
Madeline,
you obviously did pretty damn good.
well, Maddie was there, and she would get up and sing, play piano and sing, amazing voice and talented piano player. And she would get up there with Jesse, and this became kind of like an open mic staple. Her and him would get up there, and they would do Hallelujah. Not the Leonard Cohen version, but the Shrek version.
Oh, okay.
yeah. But it was. They
Wonder which one was Shrek.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jesse,
No.
if you're listening.
No. Oh God. No, but they. It was beautiful. I mean, and I was immediately swoon. I was looking at it as this is a very talented group. This is a very beautiful, talented woman amongst all these very talented people, and then just being amongst that crowd for a while and meeting her and hanging out. So I mean, yeah, that absolutely came from going to that open mic night.
All right. And on that note, guys, we're going to take a very short break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Jake about married life, how the Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds were formed, their albums, and what is coming up in the future. So we'll be back in just a minute.
Well, I hate to admit that I'm better, but I'm over this whole way of life. Working away every moment, waiting to die. And we're made to believe it gets better, and they always know just who's to blame. Oh, but year after year, all we get is just more of the same. I can't believe that I'm still in the shape that we're in. Lord, tell me, how does it end? Well, give it some time to realize that it's no good wasting away all your moments, feeling down, broken and beaten around. Well, the louder we scream at each other, the harder it gets to remain peacefully patient, just waiting for something to change. And the leaders demand that we listen, and the preachers demand that we pray. Oh, so tell me now, where is your heart, and just what does it say? I can't believe that I still haven't figured it out. Filling our heads with more doubt, but give it some time to realize that it's no good wasting away
And we're back from break, and that was a solo acoustic performance of the song Broken by Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. We are back, and let's jump into the topic of how the Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds formed. We're already at open mic. You've already kind of met your future wife.
Mm-hmm.
Fill us in from there. How did the band really get going?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, at that same point in time, so yeah, like I had said, everybody was at the same time sort of simultaneously getting bands together. And I'd always wanted to be in a band. It's like we were talking earlier, like my introduction to music was, I recall being in like the 6th grade, and I've been friends with Dustin Nash for basically forever. Me and Dustin grew up together. And I remember being like the 6th grade and Dustin saying something along the lines of like being in a band. And I thought, oh shit, you can just start a band. Like you can just do that. Like you don't need, like you don't have, like it's not like you sign up or it's like a sports
You don't have to
team.
ask your parents.
Yeah, like you can just do it. And that was all I ever wanted to do, and never could though successfully. So got to this open mic, saw these really talented people, and I thought this could happen. I mean, Dustin, he wasn't really, in a band too much. Well, I take that back. We were playing in Ben Davis's backing band. I was playing bass for Ben. Dustin was playing guitar. Okay. And, started wanting to do my own thing. So I thought, okay, Dustin, if you don't mind pulling double duty, you come play with this band that I'm starting as well. Bobby Wheeler, of course, who I became very, very close friends with. And, especially through our college years, a lot of debauchery through those times. And really from the point in time where me and Bobby became friends, I was not in any musical project, excluding the project with Ben, that Bobby wasn't involved with. I mean, we've been musical, friends, and creators together for a long, long time. So I wanted Bobby in the fray. Bobby is a great drummer. He's an insanely good guitar player, incredibly good. I mean, he holds par with, same thing with Jesse. Jesse's insanely good guitar player. I mean, they blow me out of the water with their technicality of their leads. I can't compete. And I'll
But try to get Jesse to say anything good about himself.
of course. Yeah, of course.
So hard.
Yeah. Bobby, on the other hand, he can't wait to tell you how great he is. No,
Okay.
no, not at all. Not at all. I'm being facetious. But so I knew Bobby would be involved, and I asked him to play bass. I thought, you don't play bass, but I don't know anybody who does. And then, I think I saw Jesse play drums he was either playing drums with Levi Westfall at an open mic or with Corey Shields at an open mic. Mm-hmm. And I thought, I didn't know that Jesse played drums. Didn't really know anybody at that point in time who played drums that would, be open up to play in a band with me. Anybody that was local enough who'd want to do it. And he was kind of confused about me asking him because he was like, I'm not a drummer, dude. He's like, I'm playing drums for these 2 bands, but I'm not a drummer.
Anybody that's ever seen Jesse play drums can know that he's a drummer.
Yeah, he's an animal.
We can be anything, but
absolutely.
he can be a drummer.
No, absolutely. So it started.
He looks like the country version of Animal from the Muppets. When he's up there.
Yes,
I love
absolutely. He 100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean that's how it pretty much formed together. I mean, these were just mutual music friends. Bobby and Dustin knew each other as well for a long, long time because we were all, high school friends. Bobby played in a band with Dustin, pop punk band.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they were called Live This Down. Ben Davis also played in a pop punk band called In the Red. That whole wave, quite thankfully, skipped me. I never got into and I sometimes wear that as like a little badge of honor because it never hit me, man. I never really cared for it. At the time, everybody was getting really into that was when I was really starting to discover more rock. I was listening to Zeppelin and Rolling Stones and the Beatles. That was when I was diving into that. But yeah, Bobby was the lead singer of that band, and Dustin played guitar. And you know what? You should go back and try and find some pictures of those because Dustin used to have. I'll start with Dustin. Dustin used to have this long black hair. All right, that it was blonde hair, but he would dye his hair black, and he'd paint his fingernails black. you know, and the chains and everything with the wallet chains. And Bobby also had longer hair, and he would have his hair like down in his eyes.
So
you know,
it's like Flock of Seagulls meets My Chemical Romance.
100%. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. And I admittedly, I thought, oh, these guys are so goofy, but they were, everybody loved them. You know, they played shows. They played big shows. I mean, they opened up for some pretty big bands in that scene.
My favorite from that era was a band called Flinch.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah,
absolutely.
The teacher from Warren
Yeah.
was in that band,
Yeah.
or is in that band, and I spent many a high school party with Flinch,
Yeah.
and I go to as many of the reunion shows as I can.
Yeah. Yeah.
Still rocking that same pop punk sound
Yeah.
from the early 2000s, and I hope they never change.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because, again, with, and I'll get back to the Blackbirds here in a second, but just when Dustin and Bobby and all of my friends were getting into that pop punk scene, I not only listening to discovering classic rock, but me just thinking like, well, what is punk music even? And getting into,
It's very existential.
getting into Iggy Pop and getting into
Ooh.
Ramones,
The good
yes,
side of punk.
and
okay.
getting into like Johnny Thunders, and getting into early Talking Heads, and I even ventured as far as like some very very early ska, before it sort of became what that was, when it
Yeah.
was kind of still fringe on that punk scene, like the Specials were a cool
They're
one.
one of my favorite bands.
Really?
The Specials, yeah.
Wow! Oh man, yeah. I actually bought one of their records at your store.
Oh,
Yeah,
thank you.
yeah, I love them. But
thanks for helping feed my kids.
yeah, but so yeah, I got those four guys together, and we just started rolling with it. It was very well received, and it was this weird thing that happened. Was I was writing all of these very sad acoustic guitar songs, because I was going for that singer-songwriter thing.
Yeah.
And then that flip of the switch, I want to be in a band again. This is where I said earlier, I want to make loud music now. And which is good, because Dustin Nash is just about as loud as you can get. He'll crank that sucker. And I mean, he's for good cause. I mean, his tone is undeniable, but that blend of his guitar playing style, which is very much, he's Ace Frehley, he loves Kiss, so he has that very much kind of like coming from that more metal, classic rock guitar style playing. Even when he was in the pop punk band, he still held on to that type of playing. Slash as well. He's always been a Les Paul guy, and that type of style with him, and then Jesse coming from his rockabilly background and being more interested in that punk music as well.
Cadillac Lester.
Yeah, 100%. Bobby also kind of having that. I mean, we were all coming from different places musically, and the way that it all kind of came together just had this unintentional type of sound. I wasn't trying to be. I wanted to go for that singer-songwriter thing, but I wasn't trying to be, like a cowboy or something. And I wasn't also trying to be any sort of thing. It was just I wanted to just write songs and play them or whatever. And there was no intention behind what that first Blackbirds EP sounded like. I mean, it was just like, this is how we're gonna phrase these songs with what we're all bringing to the table. I was writing, and I still, I mean, I'll write the song pretty much in its entirety, with some parts here and there that I might, not really know where to go or whatever. But, as far as like the structure of the song and the lyrics and all that, like I have had that written, but then everybody else bringing in their own stuff is that's all to them. It's just a matter of catering it to each other until it blends the way we want it to blend. And that's my favorite thing about working with those guys is the direction that everybody's coming from just somehow get molded together to something that, again, we weren't intentionally going for. And
I gotta say, that's the thing I'm the most jealous about, because I've never been in a band where there was like a brotherhood or a co-collaboration with the creative aspect. All the bands that I've ever been in, it was my songs or cover songs, and we would just play them, and I would give them a look or be like, okay, I'm switching to this now. It was I've never been in a position where any of my stuff had any other creative input. So that had to be a thrill to be not only to be able to express yourself, but for other people to be able to express themselves through your
Yeah.
art
Yeah, absolutely.
and to create something very special.
Yeah, I mean it's really cool because I mean again, you know, these were my, you know, songs that I had written,
Yeah.
whether they were written, you know, newer for the band. Some of the songs I had written for a long time. But yeah, I mean, when, you know, for instance, the song, it's one of the off our first EP, one of the first songs that I had brought to the open mic at the Adelphia after I had met my wife. Yeah, so it was a ways done. It wasn't one of the first ones because me and my wife had been dating for a while, but I had wrote the song My Evangeline, and that song when I first wrote it, it sounded kind of more like a Justin Townes Earl song. And you know, when the band came in, then it just became what it was, you know, and it even sounds different now because we've just, you know, well-rounded the, you know, and redefined the sound over the years. But again, it's not intentional. It's just what everybody's wanting to bring to the table at the time.
How many albums does the band have at this point?
We have three. We have three full-length records, and then we started off with we put out an EP first back in 2015, and then we also did a short EP. I think in between our first and second record, and it was just, you know, we did a live version of 2 songs, and then we recorded some more kind of stripped down versions of some of our other songs. They were recorded to tape, which is cool. Out at a studio in Pomeroy called Peachfork Studios. Give a shout out to Bernie now; he's awesome. But yeah, three records and 2 EPs, and so I mean, that's, you know, because I like to write a lot. You know, it was one of those things where it was like, you know, we have these songs, and you know, some people, you know, it's beyond me how they, you know, will have these songs and they won't have any music, you know, put out anywhere, and then, you know, their debut record will just be, you know, straight to the top, or, you know, like produced by, you know, Rick Rubin or something like that. I was like who the hell is this person? You know, they have no music out there. So I don't know if it's, you know, if it was in hindsight, like, well, maybe we should hang on to this and shop it around. But I just wanted to put music out. I love making records. You know, I love writing songs and recording them and making records, you know, and I don't, you know, the success of them or whatever is great. But I mean, I just, like I said, Dark Side of the Moon, man. I want to make records like Dark Side, where it's just a beginning to end experience. You know, I love that.
So you love making records. What do you like? What do you love more, performing live or being in the studio?
I mean, it's like apples and oranges, man. I love them both just as much. It's like a different feeling. I mean, playing live is so, it's like you know, if you love to run, it's like the race. You know, that after the race experience where you get that runner's high. Being in the studio is like, you know, it's like if you love to cook, you know, if you're in the kitchen, and I love that because that's really the point in time where the creative stuff from everybody gets locked in. You know, we'll have songs that you know, we've practiced the songs, we know the songs, but we don't necessarily, you know, in the past stuff that we've written, you know, there will be songs on our records that we would maybe have only practiced a handful of times. Like, they know the song, and then we will have gone into the studio and just kind of made it what it is. Wow. You know, and just and just kind of worked with it from there. And that's where, and I love that because that's, you know, that's everybody. You know, we can, you know, Jesse can go in behind the kit and play drums to this song, and whatever his ideas are that he's having, it's still very fresh. It's still very new, to the point where, you know, it can very easily still be messed around with in the studio. And it feels like sometimes with us, my experience is we've whether stuff has been predetermined and we've gone in and laid it down better than what we thought, or if it was something that we just ended up falling into because it was just the environment helped us get there. But I love both equally. You know, I do a lot of home recording on my own just because I have a song I want to hear what it sounds like listening back to me. You know, I've played it. I want to hear what it sounds like coming back in my ears. You know, and so I mean, immediately I was like, guys, we got to put out some music. Like, I want to get some songs out there. We did the EP, again, very well received, and then at some point in time, we're at again. This is the Adelphia has been such a historic place for me musically. I feel like a lot of people in the area. It's good, bad, or indifferent. It's done what it has to the scene. And we were at a show at the Adelphia, and I believe it might have been one of the Rivertown Revival shows that we had started doing with all those all the bands that formed from the open mic.
Yeah.
We kind of started playing shows together. And we're watching, I think it was Levi. Yeah, it was Levi Westfall. Levi Westfall and the Last Call is what they were going by at the time.
Yeah, they're very much like what you had started
Yes.
on the quieter end of the singer-songwriter spectrum. He's never really ventured out past that very emotional, reserved singer-songwriter,
which I love. I mean,
it's definitely his wheelhouse.
No, for sure. Yeah,
yeah, he's fabulous. Yeah. Absolutely.
We were watching his band play, and me and Dustin are at the bar in the back of the room there, probably ordering some cheap PBRs, and we're watching them play, and it was one of those moments where me and Dustin, we were kind of having a conversation. We kind of paused and we're like watching him play, and I'm thinking it, and I look over at Dustin, and he says it. He goes, "Man, what if we added another guitar player in the band?" And I was like, who are you thinking? And we both like look up at Chuck McPeak, who was playing in Levi's band at the time. Yeah. And because he's up there just killing it. And it was surprising to hear Dustin say that, because where Dustin is such an incredible lead guitar player, and that just goes to show like there's very little, there's no ego in the band. It's great. Like Dustin.
That's rare.
Yeah, Dustin being as incredibly good as he is, he's suggesting to me, let's get this other guy in here who's also incredibly good. And it was, that right there was a big game changer. Chuck McPeak brought so much to us with his wisdom and just his overall demeanor and his approach to playing, because Dustin, again, coming from his very, technical, that metal rock and roll background, Chuck was coming in from a more, we'll call it, no offense to Dustin, but we'll call it a more mature type of playing style, where he's doing these very melodic solos and he's doing these very nuanced things. And it's stuff that when we ended up putting it into the band, it like I said, it filled out what was missing. And the first record that we made with Chuck, which was our first record, we only put out the EP without Chuck, and which is the EP's called The Darkness Creeping In. And when we put out our first record, Nowhere Feels Like Home, with Chuck on it, and going back and listening to those two, you can tell that his presence is there, because, and it's a little bit of us adapting over that period of time, but that's when I started becoming. And I'm always constantly in awe of those guys because of their individual ability to, be present in the song. It's like when I hear us play in my mind, I'll oftentimes get lost in what we're playing, and my muscle memory will kind of take over, and I won't even be really realizing that I'm playing and singing. Hopefully I'm doing it well, but I'll get lost in listening to those guys. Yeah. Because I'm hearing everything's doing things that are so different, but are coming together in a way that is so satisfying to me, personally. And when you isolate, it's great when you isolate anybody's tracks in the band and you hear what they're really playing. It's not what you would expect once they all get merged together.
So when you're in the studio, how do you guys do it? Are you all playing individually? Or are you all playing together in one room?
Every record we've cut so far, we've done we've done individually. We've cut a instrument at a time.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the process of recording with a live performance is we could certainly. We could certainly do it, but like I said, there were.
You're the tightest band in this entire area. I've never,
Thanks,
as loose
man.
as you may feel,
Yeah.
it sounds like from a listener and a fan standpoint, these songs are like they feel super polished.
Well, I'll give that credit entirely to those guys because they're just putting on the show, you know. And I like having the creative outlet to write the songs, to say the words, and then just kind of lean back and let those guys take over. You know, they are they are the stars of the show, in my opinion. And that I love kind of, it's like releasing the hounds, just letting those guys go. And even, I mean, even Jesse, I will not even say even Jesse, but Jesse also, you're watching him play drums, and it's entertaining. I mean, it's a show. He's back there, whether he's flinging his hair around, being badass, or taking his shirt off because he's sweating all over the everywhere. Place. Yeah, he's an animal up there.
Well, there's very few people that don't have a record deal that you can look at and just like instantly feel like you're enamored and drawn to watching. And you seem to have found the people in this town and are like, you're hoarding them for yourself in a great way, in a great way. It's like you, especially as a front man, when you sing and the emotion and the screaming and the mouth wide open, you can't take too many pictures.
Yeah.
When Jesse is shirtless or shirted, just pictures of him playing drums, the emotion that you guys portray during a live show is nearly unmatched. I would say you and Oyo. It's hard for me. It's hard for me to say that I love one over the other because it is like apples and oranges. They are one thing, and you guys are completely different. But as far as gelling and all of these people and personalities in one spot, you guys are all like amazing to watch.
Thank you. Like I said, I feel that way, but just about those guys. I mean, when I stop and listen to them, it amazes me because everybody is their own character, and
it's very humble of you to say.
I won't speak for them, but I know for me, as far as, putting on a show and getting involved in the performance, it's not a thing that happens at all anymore nowadays, but it's that dream of you play a show and there's that person out there who's like, you're the next big thing, kid. Sign right here on the bottom of the line. It's never happens. That nowadays that's the equivalent of your TikTok.
I was gonna say you have to be on TikTok to get that.
You go viral. You
have to be the next Noah Kahan.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Kahan, whatever his name is.
Right.
Taylor Swift has to love you for you to become famous.
Right.
Super quick overnight.
Absolutely. Yeah, you get the right tweet, or you get the right, somebody's wearing, Post Malone's wearing a T-shirt with your band name on it.
Or he gets your face tattooed on his face.
Right. Yeah. But to me, in my mind, and I think it's still from loving classic rock and being in love with the era of 70s classic rock is just I love it. That's where I would love to live musically. I feel like that is a point in time in music where things just made sense to me. Obviously not having lived through that, but just looking back,
it's your all's look and stage personas as well.
Well,
you with your denim.
Yeah.
Jesse looks like he's been the drummer in every 70s classic rock, southern rock band ever.
Yeah, and that again is it's not an intentional thing. It's not like any of us are sitting at home, going like, we got to put on our uniform.
Yeah, you're not like Kiss putting on your makeup.
Yeah, I wear the cowboy hat sometimes, and I like the denim vests or whatever. But those are just things I like to wear. It's not a thing that I'm doing for any specific reason. It's just if I'm doing it for any reason, it's because I wish that I did look. That's where my style comes from. But it doesn't matter. I digress. But having that mentality of this show that we're about to play could very well be the show that whoever's out there watching goes and calls the person, and they say, you got to check these guys out. And to me, that's what I'm thinking about every time we play. Like, it's always that. I mean, anywhere, whether we're playing at, First City Records, or we're playing at, we played at Fallsburg Music Festival a couple weekends ago.
I love seeing how excited you got about that gig.
Oh, the bill was stacked. Arlo McKinley played.
He sells as good as Tyler Childers, by the way,
he's
in
great.
my store.
I
can't keep his stuff in stock.
He's great. He's great. He's a good dude too. He's good to talk. He's fun to talk to. Tommy Prine played, John Prine's son.
Oh,
I'll tell you this story really quick.
Yeah.
To sum that all up is those shows, to me, everyone is going to be the one. Like every show is going to be the show, or has the potential to be the show that is the one that we look back on as being, that's the one where we were discovered. And I know that's a silly thing. It never happens, but that's the motivation for me to want to go out there and give it every time. No matter the show. Like I said, it could be a room to nobody, but maybe the one person who's taking a leak, is the guy.
Did you watch That Thing You Do growing up?
A lot. Well, and
it's one of the best movies of all time.
I love it. It's movies like that, and this was when Walk the Line came out when I was younger too. A lot of those biopics.
Love that movie.
I mean, but that is the case for a lot of musicians back then. Somebody came along and said, this is a person that's good, that we can market, that we're going to do. But that's where I'm coming from, with those types of, with those shows. I mean, I think they're all feeling the same thing, that we're all wanting to leave it all up there every time.
Well, I'm obsessed with your guys' latest record. Is it Cosmic America?
Cosmic Americans was our middle one. The one we put out, the most recent, which was put out in 2021, is called Sad Songs.
Did that get a physical release or just?
It did. Well, not to vinyl. We did get some CDs, which is an interesting thing because not a lot. I feel like people buy CDs nowadays as like a
placeholder.
Yeah,
it's a placeholder until the vinyl comes out. It very much is that, and something to have in the car
for sure.
But Cosmic Americans is the only album that I've really spent a lot of time with, and since you guys have played the store, that album has became probably top 20, 25 in my personal life. Like I know every lyric.
It's great, man.
It's right up there with William Matheny. He had a song called or an album called Born of Frustration, which I think he was like a teenager when that came out, and I bought it when I was a teenager, and seeing him. The fact that I love a local band's album to the point where like it's far beyond what I would consider as local talent. I mean, okay, so here comes the ass kissing portion of the program, and I'm dead serious. I'm dead serious about this, and I've said this to Jesse. I've said this to anybody that listens to my flapping gums. It kills me to know that you guys aren't on a label. It kills me to know that you've played my store and people haven't heard it. Yeah. My three favorite bands that I can... Okay, you guys are an amalgamation of the songwriting of Bright Eyes. My other favorite, Ryan Adams, with the vocals, especially with the Cardinals.
Yeah.
And I had the third one in my head earlier, and I'm not going to dwell on it. All I got to say is I'm humbled and grateful. Not only have you guys played my store and that you continue to play in my store, but like I'm a huge fan. Like not only of Jesse and I go way back and whatnot, but apart from that, it's just like the songwriting is so damn good on that album.
Man. Thank you.
My God, like walk us through what it's like trying to write a song.
Yeah,
like what. And Ananga Martin from last week's episode says she hated the word process. She doesn't like what is your songwriting process, because she is more existential, natural. Yeah. Like I took a bath and I wrote a song out of it.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
do you have a process?
Yeah, I mean that's the great thing about creating is everybody, it's subjective to how everybody does it, you know. But so I studied graphic design in college, and I love design. I teach graphic design at Meigs High School. And
what is the mascot?
Marauders.
Shout out to the Marauders.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
10% off to anybody that comes to First City Records
Absolutely,
wearing
yeah.
their Marauders shirt.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But I love design, and I'm one of those. I very much love record stores to look at the covers. I'm one of those weird people who I really love typography. I love I love the simplicity of things that are so important. And it's those things that people don't really pay attention to. People will look at a shirt or a poster and they go, "Oh, that's cool. I love it."
Yeah.
But they won't really dissect the fact that they love it because of the lettering or because of the color decisions or all these things. And to me, coming from that background, it made me approach songwriting from a point where it's not like it's a process where it's like this arbitrary thing, but it's a way to guide my creative thought process or my creative thinking towards a goal. So like when I'm with design, it's like you're given a prompt always. Somebody comes to you and says, "Hey, I need a logo," or "Hey, I need a poster," this, that, whatever. So you know what the objective is, and you even know what they want and what they need. It's just a matter of making it look as good as it can, like making it look good and getting the message across, right? And that's my same kind of deal with writing. Is and it always starts with paper and pencil. Like I love things. I love going a little archaic because I don't really like the time. I mean, I love the progress of technology and AI and all these things that we're going to be doing with it. But it won't, and it still doesn't impress me creatively because I don't think that you're missing that, you're missing that archaic, and I won't even call it all archaic. You're missing that foundation of making something that is it's like, to me, it's like the dirt. You need the dirt for it to grow. You need the soil for it to grow. So I love sitting down with a notepad or something, and sometimes it will be, I'll wake up in the morning and, my wife will be, heading out to work or something, maybe it's during the summer, and I'll have a cup of coffee and I'll just sit down. And again, this isn't like my routine. It's just what I'm doing. And I'll sit down and I'll grab my guitar and then I'll just start playing something, and sometimes it's the first thing that you play. Like it just immediately hits. Yeah. And you have it. You have the whole thing. I mean, you got the chorus lyrics, you got the turnarounds, you have the bridge. I mean, it's everything is all right there. And it's happened to me a good bit of times. And it's the strangest thing. It's like just creativity just streamlining through you. And I've gotten really lucky with those sometimes, but other times it's like, so for instance, like, on Cosmic Americans, all right, the song on there, it's kind of back and forth with both of them. There's songs on that record that I wrote spontaneously. They just came, and it was something where I would wake up and it would just be there. And then there were others that I, had to go through and really, like, here's what I want to write about, right? So for instance, like there's a song in there called Life in the Valley. That song in there? That was a song that it just was there. Like I just sat down, I woke up and I wrote it. And Low was the same way. It was just there, and I lyrically too. And I love that because it's just like pure subconscious, like spilling out of you. There's not a lot of conscious thought there. And what's great for me sometimes, the catharsis of it is I'll write a song, spewing it out of there, and then I'll listen to it and go, "Oh, that's what I'm feeling."
Does the well ever run dry for you?
I don't want it to sound like a brag, but no. I mean, there's just always something that I want to. I want to make something new. Like when we made Cosmic Americans and it was recorded, I'm like, all right, we did it. What's going on now? I want to make more songs about about new things. I mean,
Yeah.
so we have songs like Low and songs like Life in the Valley, but then there's songs like Sins to Come. I had a very clear idea what did I want, what I wanted for that song. I picked around with it, and then I think I was just thinking of just the going to confession. I was probably watching something at the time, and there was some person going to confession, and it was just that forgive me for I have sinned, whatever. And I thought, okay, that's cool, but what if you were asking forgiveness for something that you haven't done yet? And you knew that you were gonna, and that's the plot of the song. Is here's a guy who, who was accused for killing his brother. Knows he didn't do it. Knows the guy that did kill his brother. Wants to break out of prison to kill this guy who killed his brother. Knows he's gonna do it, and is already asking for forgiveness. For the act of doing it. I knew that that's what I wanted that song to be about. And then it was just that's where that process more becomes involved. It's like here's
Wow.
here's what I want, and then here's like the process of what the song needs to build into, like story wise.
So you're more of a storyteller. If you had to put a percentage to it, how many of your songs that you've written are from personal experiences, life experiences, as opposed to just a story or something that you've thought of organically?
Yeah. I mean, I'd say probably maybe like a good 60-40, split, with the 60 being, the personal stuff.
Okay. If you had to pick a few artists, as far as songwriters that you look up to, give us 3 to 5 artists that really not helped you along the way, but just that you look up to as somebody that creates amazing storytelling songs.
Absolutely. The first one that comes to mind for me is Bruce Springsteen. I think Bruce Springsteen tells stories in his songs better than most songwriters I can think of, and it's underappreciated.
He really is underappreciated, mainly because he's so middle American.
Oh, for sure.
That everybody thinks that it's all
yeah. Well, I mean,
true stories by
right.
me working in the coal mines.
Right. But I mean, you listen to and it's the infamously mistaken patriotic ballad of Born in the USA, which is not. It's quite the opposite. But you listen.
I recently got into the actual lyrics of that one.
Yeah.
And it is not the patriotic ballad that everybody thinks.
No, and that's part of why I think he doesn't play that one anymore, because it's the misinterpretation. Because that song's about a vet who comes home to nothing and can't get a job, and he's been betrayed basically, by his country. It's how he feels.
So he doesn't play that one anymore then.
That's what I've heard. That's what I've heard. Yeah. I think.
Right, so we got Bruce. Who else?
So Bruce for sure. Roger Waters from Pink Floyd has incredibly, in my opinion, incredibly good lyricist, because of he says so little, and it goes so far. Us and them. Is just that's right there in and of itself. I mean, that's just 3 simple things. From Dark Side of the Moon. Us and them. God only knows we're only ordinary men. Me and you, God only knows it's not what we would choose to do. I mean, it's just, you're not directly pointing out like, this is what it is, but you're alluding to it, right? And I love that idea. Roger Waters for sure. Justin Townes Earl, again, he has a lot of really heavy hitting, sad songs. I really fell in love with Midnight at the Movies, that record of his.
Yeah, that's actually my favorite of his.
I love it. Yeah. And Ryan Adams, he's another one as well that I
He's a case. He's a case of a ego.
Yeah.
He has the ego.
I'm sure I would hate him as a person.
Oh,
I'm sure I would.
Watching him live is like okay. So watching Ryan Adams live in 2024 is like watching a Bob Dylan concert. You're scared to clap. You're scared to move. Don't go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Don't stand up middle song. He will. Okay, at the show that I went to, he literally called out a person for showing up late.
Yeah.
in a theater full of 1,000 people. He called out the one
Yeah.
person who walked in mid-song late to the show and like literally called back to them throughout the show. Like, are you sure you don't need another bathroom break? Like throughout the show, like I'm scared of how, but
Yeah.
the songs that he has written
Yeah.
have been some of the highlights of my listening life.
Yeah, you know, it's yeah, and
Is it forgiving to be an asshole?
I it
Or are you just supposed to say he's complicated?
no, I don't think that at all. It's one of those things for me that you have to separate the art from the artist. And
That's so hard to do. I took a year off from him after that whole thing, like everybody else did.
Yeah.
But then he came back, he apologized. He's been so humble and so great since, except for live.
Right. Yeah. No. Right. For sure.
Live when the cameras aren't
Well,
rolling.
it is
But,
one of those cases where people are very quick to hop on board of the train of really anything that is
It's like the movie American Beauty was my favorite movie for many, many, many years.
and with
Am I allowed to like it now?
because of
It's so hard to
what's Kaiser
Spacey.
Spacey. Yeah, no, for sure. And that's I was watching Glenn Ross the other day, and I was like, man, that's it's a bummer, but
it's a bummer. He's so
very
damn
good role.
talented.
Him and Seven, very good, very good. And that's I'm going back and I'm listening to any Cardnology, and
Anything with Ryan Adams and the Cardinals.
absolutely. But yeah, I would probably detest him as a person. And it's funny because me and Ben played a show one time with David Childers, spoke about him earlier, and these gentlemen from South Carolina. I think it's either North or South Carolina. They went to high school. These two gentlemen. They were in a band called the Louder Milks, and they went to high school with all the cats in Whiskey Town in Ryan Adams. And I thought, man, that's really cool.
Another very underrated alt country.
I love Whiskey Town. Well, they only had about two records,
two albums, yeah.
But yeah, I thought, wow, because I was really, really, really into Ryan Adams at the time, and I didn't know anything about him other than I liked his music, and
he likes cats.
Yeah. And I remember being like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, so you guys, they said, yeah, we know those guys, Whiskey Town. I was like, oh, so you guys know Ryan Adams, right? And they was like, yeah. And they're like, I was like, yeah, like what, what's he like? And they kind of looked at each other, and they were brothers, and they kind of looked at each other, and the one brother, Alan, he looks at me and he goes, well, I put you like this. The rest of those dudes in Whiskey Town are pretty all right. It's hard to, some people with, who are in this game, I think they forget that they are, supposed to be an outlet for their creativity, and they get more sucked into the fact that people know who they are now. And they get more attached to, that limelight thing, and I can't speak for that personally because I'm not in that sort of spectrum of players or whatever, but I would really like to think that if that moment did ever happen to me, then I would still, remain, and I think I know myself well enough to know that would be the case. I don't ever want to, I would much rather people know me as kind and caring and friendly and loving rather than I had some songs that I made up. I would much rather have that type of respect than, because this conversation we're having right now about Ryan Adams, great music, but it's like I don't want to have a beer with the guy. I don't want to.
No, I'd be too nervous.
I don't. No.
To be honest.
Well, no. I mean, I don't think we'd meet eye to eye. I don't. And it's like calling out people in the audience. Some people are like, oh, it's whatever's complicated. I just want to be like, man, grow up. Like you are a little tiny minuscule little ant in the the dirt that is everything that's ever been. Nobody really gives a shit. You just have to come from that point of view where.
Yet he's releasing 6 albums per year.
Yeah, of course. Well, because he can, and I'm not saying.
I can't believe his well has never stopped at this point in his career.
What I'm getting at is I think people who are, when I see a person out there who's big time in themselves and people are like, oh, like they're so charismatic and they promote themselves. What I see is like Ric Flair. I see a heel or a face. It's like you are and you could just be putting on a show, and maybe that's what you're trying to do, but I don't find that as being real. And that is a quality that I admire more than just about more than anything else. I love, except for kindness. I love kindness in a person I talk to. But if you are genuine, I'm immediately drawn to that. That's what I love about the guys in the band. They're genuine. They don't put on airs for anybody. And I take that to heart more than anything else. You could be, like Ryan Adams, you could be the hottest shit that there is, and and you could even have, like he does, my musical respect and all that, but it's like, you're nobody. In the grand scheme of things, you're just the same as me. You're just the same as everybody else. Acting that way and behaving that way, it's uncalled for. It's just like, there's any time where I feel like I'm alienating people, I don't like that, because I think everybody knows what it's like to be alienated. But when I feel like I'm doing that to other people, I hate that. And what I feel like happens that way is when there's that when I'm being disingenuous. I feel like I can feel in myself. The shows that we have that are the worst are the ones where I'm trying to, be cool, and I'll admit that that's a thing that I've done, and
You're a performer. Every performer has done that.
and that's the thing, man. I don't want to I don't want to be a performer separated from a person. I want
You don't want to put on a mask.
No, man. I always want to be, this exact person you're talking to right now, whether I'm in a stage, on a stage or whatever.
Okay.
I look up to Dave Grohl for that exact same reason.
He is him and like Bill Murray. Yes,
Yeah.
Bill Murray can be an asshole, but at the same time, they're both like down to earth, real people all the
real.
time.
Yeah, they're real.
You're never going to be gaslighted.
No, and that's exactly it right there. I mean, there's that.
If you ever have to worry that the person that you're having a conversation with or that you're friends with is like, does he really like me or does he secretly hate me and he's just like doing this to put on airs?
Yeah.
I've had to get people out of my life recently for my own mental health purposes for that very reason.
And that's where I where I brought up feeling alienated is I will very, very often I'll be in a room at a show or, amongst friends, company, whatever, not my close friends, but acquaintances. Yeah. And I'll have this feeling that everybody is putting on, everybody's just trying to, be accepted or be the way, whatever, whether it's, for whatever purpose, good, bad, or whatever. But I feel that very strongly, and, I think it comes from a place of being, for one, incredibly empathetic. I'm empathetic to a fault. Even when sometimes in my classroom, I'll discipline a kid, you tell him to shut up or whatever, and then I'll look back on it a couple moments later and be like, oh, he's just a kid.
You're gonna feel those birth pains, man.
Oh, for sure.
For sure.
I know.
Yeah.
And because it's the same way with animals. We were house sitting. My parents have a little Yorkie puppy, and you'd be like, it's barking, just being playful, and you're like, hey, shut up, quit, and it'll just look at you. And I go,
all right, get up here.
Yeah, it's like you're just a dog,
Eat my bologna sandwich.
Yeah.
Shut up.
So I mean, I feel that empathy always, all the time, and what helps me to I think reduce the tension for other people is just by being genuine.
Yeah.
So
well, I hope when I said what I said earlier during the ass kissing portion, I really hope that you felt that was genuine because I wouldn't say that
no, of course
I wouldn't say that to anybody that I truly didn't feel it with. And that album, it's becoming one of those albums that when Cosmic Americans, it's when I can't think of what to listen to, it's in the first echelon in my brain of things to put on that I know that will soothe me, to calm me, or will excite me, just whatever I'm needing to feel. It's in it, it's there for me. So that album,
that's the goal, man. Yeah. That's the goal. I mean, that's I think it's the favorite of the three that we've done, just because it's. And I will say subjectively the way it's put together and it's arranged, I think of our stuff, it's the strongest so far.
I need to go back and revisit the others. I've heard them, but I have not spent nearly the amount of time.
Yeah, they each have their own kind of character to them, and that's one thing that I love about with those guys too is we don't. I used to say that we were, people are like, what kind of band are you guys? And there's all this ambiguous terms of, we're, Americana, or then there's alt country.
No, as a record store owner, this is what I asked Ananga. I said, I have to put your record on a shelf. What shelf would I have to put you on? Because I have to put you somewhere. There's so many artists that I'm like, I don't know if it's this, or this.
Yeah.
You have to pick one, pick a shelf for me to put you on.
Yeah.
Think of it that way.
Yeah.
It's not personal. It's not like we're not putting you in a box. It's as a seller.
Yeah.
Where should I feature you?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, think of it that way.
Yeah. And it's, it's one of those things where having that point of view of, these are all just words now. I mean, we're just kind of, we're kind of micromanaging all these different sounds. And especially when it comes to, one of the things that I am having a hard time kind of coming to terms with a lot of the, country or Americana, whatever you want to call that kind of scene that's emerging right now, is, the fact that, they have this, it's kind of like, here's what this is now, where Americana kind of used to have this, grayness to it. Now we're kind of defining it as a thing. Or
I don't like that either.
Yeah, or the same way with country. Like,
yeah, when you think country, you think bros,
right,
and the same three topics.
Yeah, all these things.
The pop.
Yeah, all these things are being put in boxes.
You're
like
either
that.
country or alt country, and that is it. When it comes to it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same way with being, trying to get on bills with artists like Arlo McKinley, which we play with Arlo. Excuse me, we played with Arlo before, a couple of times. And for us, it's just one of those things where the songs are coming from a deep place lyrically.
Yeah.
They're very much singer-songwriter songs. But we play them like a 70s rock band. We're loud. We have 3 electric guitars,
Yeah.
we want to be a rock and roll band. And when we first got started playing, I was like, yeah, well, we're like, we're Americana, we're kind of like Southern sounding. And it was just, I'd always wanted to say that that's what we were, because that's, that was when that boom of, Jason Isbell and Sturgill, like those guys were, starting to shoot off. And it was like alt country and Americana were the things to be, right?
It was the cool side of country for the people that didn't listen to the radio.
Yeah, exactly.
The radio didn't define what you liked.
For sure.
Yeah.
And loved that stuff. Loved it, still love it. But very quickly I became to realize that it's, in the eyes of the listeners, it has become the monster that was every other genre. It lost its, what I mean? It's now this thing where, you can say Americana and you can have an expectation, and whereas I feel like it used to be, you could say that. The same with indie rock. You could say here's what we, call indie alternative rock, and it's so many different things. But now when you say that, you're honing in on one thing,
Yeah, like calling a band that has a record deal indie rock.
Yeah, you're right, exactly.
If they're not putting it out on Bandcamp and crowdfunding the album, they're not indie, but they're saying that the sound is indie rock.
Right. Yeah. Right. And
that just means getting played on the radio.
For sure. And that's what it's such an industry thing. It's like you have to call yourself, you have to define your genre, whether it sounds necessarily like that or not. You have to call yourself that thing. And for the longest time, we were looking at that, that Eastern Kentucky area where Tyler Childers is blowing up. I mean, a lot of those guys, Arlo, I think maybe they're from there. But I know that's where that scene is kind of, blowing up with the, Americana, that new wave of what people are calling real country, going back to the country roots or whatever, And given the fact that those guys were so close and we're getting so big, and we had played with a lot of them, because the way the area is musically, genres and shows get mixed in all the time. So we might have been the band that we sounded like, but we were playing, we play shows with quiet, soft acoustic singers. We play shows with straight up honky tonk country bands.
That's got to be a tricky.
It is.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes, you
can't make everybody happy.
Right. Yeah. And it's, we played a show up in Columbus at this place called Rambling House. Love Rambling House. We're playing there. We're playing there again, I think sometime coming up in the fall, but it was for this show they were putting on. They were calling it like the Cosmic Honky Tonk Show. and they had like, it was like there were like 4 bands on the bill, and I think we were second to last, and or, excuse me, we played second. And the dudes that were putting on the show went first, and then we started playing. And it was funny because, some of our, our wives and girlfriends, I think, were there hanging out, and they kind of overheard the guys that had started off, after we played a couple songs. They were like, what are these guys even doing here? Like, this isn't cosmic, honky tonk music. What are they even doing here? And it blows my mind that, you, again, like coming back to being alienated, that is very alienating, because people will be like, well, what kind of music do you make? And you go, well, it's gray, and anymore I tell people we make rock and roll. We're a rock and roll band, because that's really one of the only things that you can say now that has the ambiguity that it always has. You can say with rock and roll, that could be anything from, Crosby, Stills and Nash to Foo Fighters to, whatever. Like, you could say rock and roll and people might still go, oh, like Nirvana or something, right? From having such a love and background of that, 70s rock and roll, I go back, people fail to recognize the amazing craftsmanship of music that was made, during the decades of late 60s, 70s, when they're really going for things that nobody went for before. And not only just in recording process, but like lyrically and musically, again, I'll come back to Pink Floyd, because you're doing this thing that, is not a guaranteed success.
No. Meatloaf.
Oh, yeah.
Same deal.
Absolutely.
The artistic rock. Zappa.
And that
progressive rock.
That even held its own into, leading into, like 90s music, because what you have with that grunge scene, they're making music, and again, I'm still going to call it rock and roll, because they're making music that, a label is going to listen to it, and they might not hear the single, but they'll go, well, we'll still put it out, even though there's not this, because the band is not writing a single, the band.
Look at Queen with Bohemian Rhapsody and
100%.
watching the Queen movie.
Right.
They're like, a 12-minute song cannot be your lead-in single.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, I mean,
exactly.
It's that mentality of being like, well, if you're going to be in a country band, then you better damn well write a country song. Yeah. But it's like, if you're in a rock and roll band, maybe I can write a country song. Maybe I'm the Rolling Stones and I can play Dead Flowers, and then maybe I can also go on and play Start Me Up or Beast of Burden. There's not that box to be fit in, and that's where I think we are at now. Is I don't care what you call it. I love rock and roll. Put another time in the jukebox.
I was going to say somebody. If you didn't say it, I was going to.
Yeah.
But when I put you on my shelf, here's the thing though, I never got to put you on the shelf. Yeah. We had 20 copies of your album, most signed, some not. They never left the new release section. Yeah. They were gone locally. 2 different orders.
Yeah.
Before they even hit the shelves for me to have to figure out where the hell to put you.
Yeah.
So that has to say something.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to put a record on vinyl to you? Did it mean anything extra special?
It was incredible. Yeah. I mean, it was the only thing that I'd ever really wanted from playing music.
What's the difference between putting out an album and putting out an album on vinyl?
That's a good question. I mean, that's for me coming from, again, like the, that having that story of holding a vinyl record and that being my first introduction to playing music, quite literally, picking up Dark Side of the Moon and looking at it and feeling it. And
you can read the artwork.
Yes.
And you don't need a magnifying glass.
Yep. And then developing my taste for design, and then just really appreciating, it's the same. And with design, it's the same exact thing. You can do design for a poster or a package or whatever. You see it on screen, but when it's printed in real life and you hold it in your hands, that tangible thing that's there, it just looks and it feels totally different. And that was my experience with having Cosmic Americans pressed to vinyl. I was like, here's this thing that we've made, but now it exists physically in this world, and it's different from a CD. It just is. And it's just like. It's like you're seeing the grooves in the brain, man. I mean, it's just a different thing when you realize that it's not just something that's floating around in a digital space anymore. There's a physical object that has what you've created, literally pressed into it, that somebody will buy and somebody will hold and put on a shelf and pull out every now and then and listen. They're going to have to stand up and walk across the room and pull the needle over and flip it to the B side and drop it back and go sit back down and listen to it.
Well, just think here in 20, 30 years, Jake Dunn in the Blackbirds, you could be right next to Deep Purple
Yes.
and people's rock collections.
I would love that. I'd love that.
Laugh all you want. But I'm not sure where yours is in my shelves right now, because right now I am not organized.
You got a lot of good stuff going on.
Yeah, I know. We're getting down to the point where half of what you see is what's coming to the grave with me.
Yeah.
So
well, it's great. But, and last thing I'll say about this, as far as talking about where we fit on a shelf.
Yeah.
The reason why the record's called Cosmic Americans is because of Graham Parsons, and the idea of him calling it. He called his music Cosmic American music because similar situation, because here you had Graham Parsons, who was writing country western sounding songs, but playing, putting in elements of rock and roll and R&B and soul. So you get this conglomerate of sounds that you are saying all those things back to back. And it's like with us, what we've been calling it, and that's where it came from for me, was that discussion of, well, what kind of music do you guys play? Well, it's a little folky. It's a little, there's some rock and roll parts. It's some Americana sounds, and it was just easier to say, well, it's just American music. It's cosmic American music. It's just a conglomeration of all these things.
Well, it's a great title. It really is. Since reforming, not even reforming, just getting back together after a break.
Yeah.
What led to the break, and how are things going since you guys have been back together?
Yeah, it's really interesting thing because COVID happened and we made it through COVID. We did fine. We did some live stream shows. We did what we could. We came out of COVID and our frequency of playing had slowed down, and there was no discussion at all. It just kind of fizzled away. We eventually stopped. We just kind of stopped booking shows. We just kind of stopped talking about it. And it just kind of, it was just a unanimous kind of Irish exit, It was just like, we're just going to kind of very subtly just agree, that we're going to just do our own thing for a little while. Yeah. For me personally, it was pretty heartbreaking. Because it was at the beginning, I didn't, really, it was kind of, again, I was in the same boat. I was like, yeah, it is what it is. But I not even really thinking of what was happening at the point in time. And then very quickly I became to realize, oh, this needs to happen again. But I didn't bring it up for a long time because it's kind of one of those things where I was just really musically stifled and I wasn't writing, and I just felt like I wasn't doing anything or going anywhere without fully recognizing the fact that it was because the band wasn't around anymore. It was like my conscious mind is just thinking, oh, well, I'm not playing music anymore. And I'm doing this and that, where, my subconscious brain is going, you really, really miss those guys. You really, really miss that band. The reason why you feel, incomplete with your life is because of obviously, you would think, but that's not how my brain processes things. Typically, if I'm upset or nervous about something, it will manifest itself physically. Like I'll be losing weight, and it's like, why? Well, I'm really stressed. It's like, well, how do you feel? I feel fine. I don't feel stressed. But yeah, it just became, what it felt like to me was, see all these people that we were playing and they were still playing, or people we were playing with who didn't stop playing, who kept going and growing and have gone to next level. Watching them do that and then just kind of sitting on the sidelines, it felt, it didn't feel good. I hate to say that it was envious, but it is. I still feel it's one of those feelings you feel that you hate. You feel, I hate to feel envious, but I feel like I'm wanting, but I feel those things because, especially after that 2-year break, I felt like I felt like an also ran instead of a still running. It was like we did it, we stopped, these guys kept going, and I eventually was like, well, why? Why did we stop doing that? And I went down to the Court Street Grill one time. This was last year, kind of late summer. I went down to meet up with Bobby to watch Jaded Ravens, which is a band with a guy named Kelly Raven and his wife, and used to be in a band called um, name escapes me. I'll remember it later. But we went down there to watch that show. We're just sitting at the bar having some drinks, kind of reminiscing, and I looked over at him. I said, "Yeah, man, would you ever do it again?" And he was like, "Well, yeah, for sure." And that was kind of the end of the discussion. And then a couple days later, got to thinking about it, and I called Dustin on the phone. I said, "Hey, man, would you be interested?" Because he kept playing with Renee Stewart band, who they're from down in Pomeroy, great band.
Cool.
And I thought, man, would you do it again? Because once the ball got rolling in my head, I thought, well, Dustin isn't going to do it because he's with Renee. I thought Chuck won't do it because he's a family man. He's probably moved on with that. So Jesse and Bobby, they might do it. But I called Dustin before I even asked, Bobby officially or the other guys officially. I called Dustin. I said, "Hey, man, do you want to do this again?" Because I was talking to Bobby and he said he might do it. And me and Dustin talked on the phone for about an hour and a half. And just, we're building the excitement of saying, yeah, we want to do this again. And, then I went on and I asked Jesse and he said, yeah, of course. And Chuck, same exact way. Those guys never cease to amaze me, even with the things that they think and do. Here I thought, these guys have moved on. They don't care about this band anymore, whatever. And, it was quite the opposite. They were still as invested as ever. And when we got back in a room together and we when we had our first rehearsal playing together, that was when I realized just how awful I had felt because of how good I was feeling. I felt so good after we had gotten back together playing. It made me realize, like the day before, I was like, man, I was really miserable. Like I was very unhappy, and now I feel happy again. Now I feel how I ought to feel.
That's freaking beautiful.
Well, it's true. It's totally true. That's how I feel every time with those guys. It feels like it feels like how I want to feel playing in a band. Whatever goes on, whatever happens between now and the rest of my life, that band, the Blackbirds is how I want to feel making music with a band. It's everything I've ever wanted from playing music is with those guys. And when we came back together to do it again, it was even better. It feels like the first time, as Foreigner would say.
So are you still writing? Do you have plans of a new album? Jesse kind of hinted at maybe some future plans.
Yeah, no, for sure. Well, the future plans are pretty big for me personally because I got to, me and my wife are expecting, as you know. Yeah. And that's going to be, at the end of July. Dustin and his wife are also expecting. A lot of people I know are having kids.
Blackbird Jr.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, for sure. And they so there's some busyness coming. But luckily both of our wives, Dustin and my wife as well, are very loving and supporting of what we do. And I think they've both come to accept the fact that for one, and I'll preface this with saying that I have no doubt that Dustin will be an exceptional father, and I'll even go as far to say as I don't have any doubt in myself either. I'm not afraid or intimidated by the task of being a father. I think I'm going to do just fine.
I agree.
Well, thank you. That's one thing I will.
Your head is right where it needs to be.
That's one thing that I will brag about myself is I feel like I will be okay with being a dad. But our wives, I think, have come to the understanding that we still won't stop.
So you've heard it here. The band will continue.
Yeah, no, it's. But and I told my wife, and she's known this, since we met. It's this thing that it gets under your skin, and you can't stop. You can't stop. And whether it becomes a thing where you love playing music and you just want to play in bands and do that, whatever. There's a certain hunger for it that comes from some other place that it's all consuming, and you want it so bad that it almost makes you feel a little ungrateful for what you got. because that's at least how it is for me. It's like I want this. I want to keep making this music, and I want to, not only do I just want to, obviously I want to achieve personal success. It's not like I really care so much about seeing like, my name on the, on the kiosk or whatever out front, but it's more so the communication that I love. I want to write songs that get out there that people hear and go, oh, I, I, I didn't realize that. Like I need to go think about things now, like that's what I've always wanted so bad. And to have that voice, that's what that's what I really crave. I would love to get to the point where through my music, I have a voice to promote change that's good. And I've told my wife before, I said, with knowing the fact that I love you unconditionally and that I will love our child unconditionally and I'll do everything to provide and protect for you guys, knowing that, I can't stop doing this. I especially after having taken that 2-year break, and I told her, I said, look, if I have to stop, I'll be unhappy. I won't be able to really feel like I am my full person if I'm not only just playing music, but trying to make something of it, even if I go, if I'm 65 and I've still never made it, I'm still going to be trying to make it. Somebody, even when I'm an old man, look at Da Vinci, like people didn't care for Da Vinci, but now, he's one of the most celebrated artists that there is.
I don't think it's going to take you that long.
Well, I certainly hope not. But thinking that
truly,
but thinking that is inspirational to me, because it's just.
Sure.
But I've told her, I said, babe, I don't think I can quit. Not again. Because and she agrees as well. She said that person that I was turning into during that period of time where we had taken a break wasn't like a bad or evil or hateful person, whatever. But she just could tell that I was not. I just wasn't as happy as I used to be. I was playing shows here and there by myself, but I didn't feel like I was pushing.
Does the wife still perform, play?
Every now and then she's going to be playing actually music in the park in Marietta. This is going to, I think, it'll be coming up. Well, she's I think next month, so she'll be or this month, the end of the month. I can't recall. I should know. Bad husband there. She is playing though. She'll be very pregnant. And we'll be playing a show. Yeah. So we'll see how
in
that
goes.
Heat. Yeah, we'll see how that goes.
It'll be a short set.
Yeah. But no, not as often as she should, but she is to her credit, she's a worker. She's a busy bee. She likes to work hard.
All right, Jake, we've just hit the 2-hour mark in this conversation.
Damn.
Do you have any final thoughts that you want your fans, listeners, friends to know, band members to know before we sign off?
Oh, well, first of all, I just thank you for letting me talk, to you and have another outlet to get stuff out there. But
it's my pleasure.
Yeah. No, I mean, just last thing I'll say is we've got, there's definitely stuff coming. This is not for us. This is not a flash in the pan thing where we're just going to do it for a little while and go away again. Like I said, after having that experience and not doing it, it's full steam ahead, and as far as like Jesse kind of alluded to, new songs, they're coming for sure. I won't say that we haven't practiced anything new. I did show them one that, we fiddled around with, but with the babies coming, we're just going to take it slow. I told them, I said, guys, whatever we do next, I think, everybody feels this way about whatever record they're making, but I said, whatever we do next, it's got to be the best thing that we've ever done, so with that in mind, I'm paying more attention to what I'm writing than I ever have before. Going back to talking about that process, even if it's one that I just play and I've got it there the first time.
No more throwaways.
No
throwaways.
It's every single one is getting my full attention. And I'm looking forward to getting them and sending them to the guys and working on what's next. But can't say when, but another record will definitely be coming. You'll definitely be seeing us play all the time. We're playing First City Records coming up next month on the
the whole reason we were going to have this podcast was to promote
the
the Great Race Show, but everybody knows who you guys are.
I hope so.
And at this point, I feel like most people know who I am.
Yes.
And Jake Down to the Blackbirds will be playing First City Records for the Great Race Show. It'll be a free show at the end of the Great Race Day. I didn't do any of my homework. I don't even know the date. I think June 7th.
Yes.
June 7th, and it'll be
it's on a Sunday.
Yeah, it'll be in the evening, and we'll be open until all the racers are allowed to leave. I believe they have to stay their cars lined up until 7 or 8 p.m. So we will be rocking from like 5 or 6 until everybody's got to go.
June 23rd.
I was way off
Yeah,
then.
because the 7th is Friday.
Oh,
Yeah.
That's what it is. Yeah, that is first Friday.
Yeah, you had me shitting my pants there for
Okay,
a while.
yeah. Okay. June 23rd, Jake Down to the Blackbirds back at First City Records. And I will say, I'm not going to give away all the information yet, but I have hinted at doing what we call the First City Sessions. And Jake Down to the Blackbirds are one of, I believe, 8 acts that have already committed to doing that. You guys will be my guinea pigs. You will be act number 1.
Bring it on.
I can't say everything that I want to say right now, but I will say that it will be in a very conducive venue. And that's all I'm going to say at the end of this one. So let's thank everybody for listening. Jake Dunn of Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out.
Thanks for having me, man.
Congratulations on the fatherhood. I think I've mentioned it in the last 3 podcasts. I'm so excited for you. As a father of 4 kids. Do you have a name picked out?
Her name is Eleanor Lucille Dunn.
So it's a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I got 4 boys. We just kept trying for that one girl, and then we were going to stop. Yeah. So congrats.
Thanks,
I wish nothing but the greatest of success for you, and
Thanks,
I will
man.
do nothing but promote you guys to the moon and back. So we're going.
I tell you, man, no, I can't thank you enough, man. And if to anybody that's listening to this who has ever listened to our songs ever, just God bless you, just for even taking a moment to listen, because that's the only thing that anybody doing this will say. If you just get one person to hear something that you've made, it's the best. It's the best feeling.
Yeah.
So
when I get 20 listeners on a podcast, it feels as good as the same as when I get 350. 100%. It really does, because the art's getting out there. It's fun.
Just want to be heard.
I do.
Yeah. So
I love being heard. So thank you guys. We're going to send it back to the studio, and we're actually going to close out this show with my favorite song from Jake Dunn acoustically. So everybody enjoy this song from Cosmic Americans.
Mostly wasted time, little by little, well, it goes by, but I know much about it now. Thinking of you when the chorus kicks in, wondering just how good you've been, but I know how to get it out. So that thing I know, just what it is that you want me for. I'm useless, but I could be much more. I think I know just what it is you want me for. Getting pretty close, thinking it's time I shorten these notes, but I know how much left I got. Days are short and the nights get long, up all night just chasing that song, but I know how to make it stop. So that thing I know, just what it is that you want me for. I'm useless, but I I could be much more. I think I know just what it is you want me for. But everything's more of nothing than what it really is. But you could say the same about this heart of mine. So help me, I think I know just what it is that you are wanting me for. I'm useless, oh, but I could be much more. I think I know just what it is you want me for.
And there you have it, folks. Thank you so much for joining us this week on the First City Podcast. I have been your host, Aaron Whited, reminding you that Bill Leverty and the crew from Firehouse will be at the People's Bank Theater this August. Check that out. Get tickets at peoplesbanktheater.com. Plenty of seats available. Get them while they're hot. Want to thank my friends over at the People's Bank Theater for allowing me to interview their upcoming guests. It's been a pleasure working with you guys, and I want to thank Jake Dunn and the Blackbirds for performing again at First City Records coming up on Sunday, June 23rd for The Great Race. Next week's episode, we will talk with the people from The Great Race to kind of explain what it is and tips and tricks about how to get the most out of that day, and very much looking forward to that. So until then, we'll see you on the next one. Y'all take care, stay safe, and bye-bye then.